So thank you so much. We got a great agenda today. You're going to hear some excellent analytics from Dean Croak of DAT. You're going to hear from our wonderful FMCSA, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. We've got two of their leaders here, both Ken and Pavan. And then you're going to hear from a panel that I'll get to moderate that has owner-operators, small fleet owners, and a broker in it as well, and OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Driver Association. So we're really super excited about this, and I just appreciate that this is kicking this off. And so are you guys ready? Ready? All right, so these are high-level analytics. I hope you brought a pen and pad, because that's the best way to remember this stuff, because Dean's going to deliver a lot of great information. So joining us on the stage for the next period will be Dean Croak, Principal Analyst of DAT Freight and Analytics. Dean, come on up. All right, come on, let's give it. Come on, we got to give Dean to. All right, let's go.
Thank you.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, thank you.
You got it.
Honoured to be here. Thank you. All right. My name's Dean Croak, Market Analyst at DAT. Quick introduction from a family trucking business in Australia. Our family still has a road train cattle haulage business, so I still go back home in February and get behind the wheel and mix it up a bit. I've got a show truck out in the front row. It's the black Peterbilt on the far left, so I can't stay for Q&A because I've got to go to Radio Nemo straight after this. But if you've got any questions or want to dig into the data a little bit deeper, come out to the truck. I'll be back there about noon today. It's the first one on the left as you get out there. All right, so DAT, we've been around for a little while, 45 years actually, 47 years, let me get this right. So the reason I want to say this is it started as dial-a-truck 47 years ago. You remember notepads in truck stops at the Jubis up on I-5, and that's how it kind of all started, morphed into TV screens in truck stops around the country. Now, of course, it's on your phone on an app. For context, what I'm going to show you in terms of data represents about roughly a third of the truckload industry. So I'm talking about rates that are over 250 miles. A lot of it's going to exclude the fuel surcharge. So it's not regional, short haul, dedicated out and back work. So I want to give you the context of the freight market, which is 250 miles and plus, and gets sort of fairly long distance also. So the data represents about 150 billion of freight spend each year. It's roughly a third of the market. Right, so we get our rates in from contributors. There's about 1,400 contributors, send our rates in every night. Most of our rates are in, about 3/4 of them are in before the loads are delivered. So it's fairly accurate in terms of what's going on in the market. But I don't want to say it's representative of the entire freight market. It's not. Right? No one can really claim that with any degree of accuracy, although some try. So that's sort of where I want to set this up. We started this year with a lot of optimism. 3 months later, there's a fair bit of pessimism in the market. Shippers are paralysed by the geopolitical tension and the tariffs that are going on, the talk of tariffs. There's a real wait-and-see attitude. We started off with a bang in January. Rates are now sort of sub-seasonal as we head into March is typically one of the better months for truckload. And we're not seeing the sort of numbers that we'd like to. Our base case scenario is a fairly soft patch for the next 3 to 6 months. If that holds and we don't drop into a fully fledged recession, we'll be lucky. Right, so this year's shaping up, from a rate perspective, shaping up a lot like last year did and a lot like the year before did. Very flat. Brent mentioned it at the start of the show, very flat. If we got rate increases in 1 to 2% range by the end of this year compared to last year, I'll be very surprised. And I'll show you some data to support this. It's sort of all the public data that we get in. You can also have a copy of all these slides, so don't worry about writing things down or taking pictures. Here's the quick summary. I'm going to talk about supply and demand, trucks, loads, give you a sense of where we're at. Volumes are fairly constrained, fairly muted. We've got a lot of problems with consumer confidence and reducing new orders on the ISM PMI index that comes out every month. That's the new orders that manufacturers submit. Those numbers are down. They did a U-turn in February. That's very concerning because manufacturing makes up about 75% of our tonne miles in truckload. So manufacturing, domestic manufacturing is absolutely fundamental to an improving truckload market, and those numbers are heading south. That's concerning. Also on the tender acceptance side, the large contract carriers are accepting 95% plus of all the loads they get tendered from shippers. That's historically high. You know, to see carriers only reject 4% of loads they get, that's historically unbelievably low numbers. Normally in a market, a freight market, carriers reject somewhere around 10 to 12% of all the loads they get from shippers each day through the EDI and the APIs they get from shippers. these numbers are really low. So why is that important? It means that if carriers are accepting most of the loads, very few are being rejected and coming out to the broker market, into the spot market. So that's why spot market volumes are low, because carriers are trying to hold on to every single bit of volume they can, the large carriers. Right, national rates down seasonally, a little bit in terms of where they are in week 12 of the year, up slightly on last year in dry van, year over year. Contract rates, though, that's about 80% of the loads that are moved in the freight market. They're positive year over year, and I'll wrap up with a slide that talks about how important it is to watch what large carriers are doing with contract rates. Reefer and flatbed, though, very different markets. Those markets are not healthy. Spot market flatbed, very healthy. Contract freight market, not so healthy. Right, so it's the larger carrier side of the market. So we've got to dig into this data and pass it out a little bit. The bigger issue we've got is that there's still more trucks in the market. Heads nodding, I see that. We still, by our estimations, we think about 8% of the trucks that joined during the pandemic are still running. For how long, I don't know. But that means that excess capacity is weighing down on any surge in demand that shippers send our way. Right, so it's unprecedented. I'll show you some numbers to support what I'm talking about. Flatbed, though, having some very strong year, much stronger year than we thought. Flatbed, when you look at the year-over-year change in flatbed from January to now, they're having the second best year since 2017. So we haven't seen flatbed rates rise like this since 2017, which was a strong industrial economy, for those that remember, coming out of the freight recessionary period in 2016. So flatbed's having a great year in the spot market. In the contract market, right, not so good. So spot market's doing really well in flatbed. That's kind of surprising. I don't know if it's going to continue, though, whether this is a bit of a head fake, right? Because flatbed rates typically increase in the first 3 to 4 months of the year, and then they flatline and then they fall off after July 4. What we don't know if they're going to continue rising to July 4 or just peter out like they did last year. So don't read too much into it, other than the getting's been good in flatbed so far this year. A lot of pre-tariff movement of freight, that's been driving up some of the demand. So that's good news for those in flatbed. Capacity, we've still got too many trucks on the road. Couple of things there. Capacity continues to exit. Large fleets are still reducing their fleet counts. The FMCSA is still seeing carriers revoke their authorities at a fairly constant clip of about 7,000 carriers a month are exiting. The problem is, for every 10 that leave, 8 join. So we're still in this sort of bottom of this freight cycle, because where some see doom and gloom, others see opportunity. And that's the wonderful part of a free market. Truck orders are down. Private fleet growth is slowing. So private fleets have been growing their fleet counts. Part of it was a 2027 pre-buy to get ahead of the new emissions coming in that hopefully end up going away. They've been doing a lot more of the freight, and if private fleets hold more of their freight, less of it goes to the for-hire truckload market. So that's been a growing trend over the last couple of years. Quickly go through here. So profitability, I've got a chart that I'll show you on where I think owner-operators are at in the spot market. Margins are back to about where they were in 2019, which is not good, right? Because 2019, in this quarter we're heading into, was when we had record bankruptcies in 2019, if you remember, where some of our biggest carriers go bankrupt that quarter. And I'm really nervous that this market is setting up for a repeat of 2019. Extremely nervous about it. The reason is rates are down around where they were in 2019, but our operating costs are running about 16 to 18 cents a mile higher. So we're getting squeezed on the truckload side of this ledger here. All right, we'll talk about tariffs a bit later. All right, so let's dive into the capacity trends. This is the Journal of Commerce Truckload Capacity Index. It's an index of the large public truckload carriers that report their average truck counts at the end of each quarter in their earnings calls. Right, so it's the number of trucks the large carriers have got on the road in the large for-hire space. It's a really good index that shows you from 2006, when we had the most trucks manufactured ever, ahead of the DPF filter pre-buy in 2007, that's when this was indexed to. And what you see is that we lost. So if you said, to put this simply, if you had 100,000 trucks on the far left, we've got 76,000 on the far right. from 2006 to today, to give you a sense of how capacity's moved. But look at the fluctuations in there. You can see large truck counts dropped all the way down to 2013. We had the 16-17 recessionary period. We had the 18-19 freight cycle, the up and down into 2019. Carriers added more trucks, then got rid of trucks. Look at what happened during the pandemic. We got up to almost 93% of where they were in 06, but we had almost 7 quarters of very steep truck reduction counts. Large fleets reducing their truck counts aggressively. I think it's almost 9 quarters. But what you notice on the far right of that graph is, from the middle of the pandemic, mid-2022, they slashed their truck counts because their volume from shippers was being slashed at the same time. But in the last 2 quarters, they're starting to trim. So we've gone from slashing to trimming. But what that means is large truckload carriers still haven't got their fleet counts where they need to be that match the number of loads their shippers are sending them. Right? So they're trying to find the bottom. That's what large carriers are trying to do. And that's the contract side of the market primarily, which is 80% of the loads moved in the country. So that's large fleet capacity. I'm going to set up a couple of other things now. So now we're going to talk about smaller carriers. This is the Landstar BCO data that's published at the end of each quarter. Landstar beneficial capacity owners. A question to you all is, where have they gone? Because we're now seeing the lowest number of BCOs since 2014. And again, a similar shape to the curve. We had a lot of independent owner-operators come into the Landstar network during the pandemic. It's dropped 27% since Q1 of 2022. Really low numbers. Have they retired? Have they sold their trucks? Like, where are all of these non-force dispatch Landstar? I can't figure it out, but these are historically no numbers. What I'm trying to paint is a picture here of decreasing capacity. And when I start to talk to you about where rates are, hopefully you'll be able to connect the dots, because we're still trying to find the bottom in this market in terms of trucks and supply. This is the FMCSA data that captures the number of carriers changing their authority each month. So the 2 greens are the carriers that activate an authority or reactivate an authority. These are truck MCs, MC numbers. The red are the carriers that revoke their authorities each month. So what you see is, if you track along to the right there, you can see from the left, from 2014, we were kind of adding, the black line is the spread, my apologies. The black line is the spread between the two. It's just simple add subtraction. And what you see is, over time, the black line was above break even. We were always adding a little bit of capacity. In fact, the net was about 1,000 carriers a month we were adding to the total truckload pool. Now remember, this is every truck over 10,000 pounds GVW. So no one can tell you in the data whether this is day cab, sleeper cab, long haul, short haul, box truck, straight truck, anything. So the data is like, this is what the data is. But it shows a very consistent pattern that we track. Now, I could show you a chart of DAT's movement each month, and it's identical because we get the DAT numbers and we know they come onto our load board. So we know that most of these are spot market carriers. So you see the pandemic, well, actually go back a bit. You can see that line drop down in July of 19. That's when we had a lot of carriers exit. That was that really bad quarter I referenced. And then you saw the pandemic. So when PPP loans ended in July of 2020, we suddenly had a massive influx of carriers into the industry. And 2 things happened. Rates went up $1 a mile and diesel dropped 42 cents a gallon over that second half of 2022. And when you have that spread between rates and costs, margins went through the roof. And that set up this period of carrier influx that we've never seen before, and one of the most profitable periods in truckload carrier history that we've ever seen. Right, so that's the back. So this is sort of the catalyst. And now we're still paying for that today. It's still hanging around in the market today. So what you see is that we started to lose carriers slowly in October of 2022. You can see the real drop-off started when Russia invaded the Ukraine. Diesel prices hit $5.80 in the summer, and then the whole market started to tank. And we've been on that downslide, this market's been sort of downsliding for almost 3 years now. But the point here is that black line is still below break even. So we're still losing capacity, but slowly. Remember, for every 10 that leave, 8 join. But I can tell you that the 8 that are joining aren't coming back into long haul necessarily. They might leave long haul, but come back into regional, short haul, dedicated type work. So this is 5% of the industry. Roughly 5% of carriers change their authority status every month. 95% of the industry don't change their status. So looking at total trucks on the road is meaningless, because you don't get a sense of where the movement is. But if that red line is mostly spot market capacity leaving, that's what moves the rate needle. You know, we talk about we need a clean out in the industry, we need all these marginal carriers to leave, all the fly-by-nighters, all of that stuff. That's that red line. And if that happened quickly, what you'd see is the black line had come back into the positive. So we're not there yet. So this is small fleet, owner-operator, small fleet capacity exits. The previous slide was large fleets. This is small fleets. So we're still losing capacity. People are still going out of the business at the rate of about 7,000 carriers a month. But it's a slow trickle because there's always carriers coming in behind them. So we're still not back to break even after a result of the pandemic. All right, so diesel prices is the other thing I want to just draw your attention to. Other than you know what they are, this is the national average used in most fuel surcharges. The national average reported by the EIA. This gives you the broad arc of time. But diesel's dropped way back down from $5.83 where it was in the summer of 2022, I think it was. It has dropped in the last year. There will be ups and downs. Diesel went up, I think, last week for the first time in 3 weeks. There's a little bit of upside risk of what's going on with retaliatory tariffs. If we start to see our export crude markets retaliate by buying their crude from other countries, we'll take a hit. Refiners will take a hit on the Gulf Coast. So there's a real worry about what could happen to diesel prices in the event that we see some capacity go offline because of production issues. So you've got to watch diesel price. That's the one thing I'm watching. It's about 33% or about 55 cents a mile for a long-haul truck. That's the one thing that could really hurt a lot of carriers this year and squeeze out the marginal carriers. Right? So if diesel went through a shock, that would hurt a lot of the carriers that are really struggling right now, that are struggling to hold on. Right? So that's sort of, why is that important? Well, that could turn rates really quickly in the spot market if that happened, if suddenly we had fewer trucks on the road. So you've got to watch diesel prices fairly closely. Hopefully that doesn't happen. All right, so this is my cost model that I run. We showed this here last year. This is the green line is the average operating cost of a truck running 100,000 miles, dry van, 100,000 miles, $10,000 a year insurance. I've got $3,000 in finance costs. I'm paying the driver $60,000 a year in wages. So this is sort of everything it costs to run a truck down the road, 100,000 miles loaded, 15,000 empty. So I've picked the midpoint of where most of our owner-operators are in the spot market, and it comes out about $1.78, $1.80 a mile, right? But there's no profit in that. That's just break even. I haven't got $20,000 in there for an in-frame rebuild, right? I'm not getting a return on equity. This is just pure break even. So what I don't want you to focus on is the numbers. Just look at the trend, the graph, and the shape of the chart here, because I think that's what's more instructive. Go back to 2018. It was costing us, that same truck, $1.63 a mile. The red line is gross profit margin per mile. The blue line is our all-in dry van spot rate, including the fuel surcharge. So you can see that if you look at the profit margin there, carriers were making on average about $34,000 a year profit in that 2018 cycle. And then we went through the 2019 cycle and our profitability dropped down to under 2,000, about minus 2,000 a year, the equivalent of. So we lost money in 2019 over the course of the year. Then the pandemic hit and carriers were making around $100,000 a year, the equivalent of $100,000 a year during the pandemic. And then if you look at the shape of the chart, Russia invaded the Ukraine, demand fell off, diesel prices went through the roof, our profitability tanked. 2023 was a break-even year. 2024 was a break-even year. 2025 has started off now back down to where we were in 2019, which was, again, a below break-even year. A really tough year financially for us. So that's the same truck running adjusted for inflation over that time there. That's where operator profitability is back to now. And that's somewhat alarming because that's not sustainable. We can't sustain that as an industry. Rates need to be a lot higher. But here's the thing that's come out of this that I find the most fascinating. Look at that mountain peak, that Mount Everest peak where carriers made so much profit during that period of time. What we're seeing for the first time is a new cohort of independent contractors / owner-operators who during the pandemic paid off all of their debt, paid off all their truck and trailer finance costs. They were really clever about how they used their money. and I know these guys, I talk to them all the time. Finance is about 30 cents a mile in our business on the long haul spot market. If you pull 30 cents a mile out of a $1.80 rate per mile, if rates are $1.80 a mile and you haven't got finance of 30 cents, you can run for $1.50 and still pay yourself 60 grand a year wage. So $1.50 is below where rates are. So if you say, why are rates low, right? One of the reasons is there's a lot of very profitable, low debt independent contractors out there for the first time that can actually run for much lower because they don't have this debt. And they are adding to the low rates. Normally operating costs run in a fairly tight band. What we've now got is a market where some carriers can run for $1.50, others need $2.20 because they paid triple for a used truck during the pandemic. I've never seen this before where the operating costs of a truck are so wide. Right? So this is part of the reason that we're seeing this market drag on, because what I see is, and I track when these carriers jump in and out of the market, you see a bit of demand come into the market and then they jump back off their lounge into the truck, hit the road, and then they disappear again. And that creates this sort of long effect that we're seeing in the market. So that's where we are. We're setting up for a year where if rates are bad this year, this doesn't look good for us from a profitability point of view. It means it's another year of grinding it out. That's the challenge here. The other thing you've got is private fleets. I talked about it a bit earlier. That top line, that black to gold, that's the operating costs. That's what it costs a private fleet to run. So private fleets are hauling about 75% of their outbound loads. These are the manufacturers that have their own fleet. If they're hauling 75% now, historically that was about 67% back in 2022, because shippers got burnt during the pandemic by double-digit rate increases. So they said, we're going to grow our private fleet count and haul more of a freight on our own trucks, which meant less freight to the for-hire market for you. That's how it all sort of panned out. They've been buying more trucks, they've been controlling more of their freight. It doesn't make sense though economically, because normally what happens when freight rates are low, private fleets go to the for-hire market to move their freight cheaper than it costs their own trucks. Not happening at the moment, not yet. So if you say, why are things slow and why isn't there much freight in the market? It's because a lot of private fleets have been doing more of their own and sending less to brokers and the spot market. So there's a lot of things at play here that's adding to the soft market. There's a lot of hot shots on the road. Hot shots went up 4x, 4 times the number of hot shots on our load board at the start of the pandemic. We're now seeing 4 times the number of loads come into our load board that have the word hot shot in them. And for every hot shot, like every load on a hot shot, there's half a truckload. You see half truckloads running around the highway all day. That's the other thing that stuck during the pandemic, because shippers wanted to move whatever they could on whatever they could get. And we saw this big growth in hotshot trucks come into the market with the 40-foot gooseneck trailer, and that's stuck. It's one of the things that's stuck around. So again, adding to lower volumes for 53-foot capacity. All right, demand trends. Brent, how am I going on time? Can you? Okay, I'm going to have to whip through this. Imports have been getting a lot of talk lately. Again, this is going to set up for a fairly slow peak season. So normally freight volumes pick up October, November. It's going to be fairly flat this year because we just had one of the biggest Februaries on record in terms of the number of containers coming into the country. Normally it's the slow part of the year because Chinese New Year is in late January, early February. Factories shut down for 3 weeks. That's the low point in the shipping calendar. You can see on the far left there, the green 2025 line, we had a lot of volume come in. What does that mean? It means a lot of pre-stocking, a lot of warehouses are full, a lot of freight's already been moved. So if you're budgeting on a certain number of volume over the course of each month, the back end of this year is going to look very different. Instead of peak season, it'll be a speed bump. Right, so you've got to think about this now in the context of consumer demand, warehouses are full, are you and I buying more stuff? Probably not, right? We're all tightening our belts, shippers are paralysed, there's a real wait and see mentality going on here. This is one thing. Now, imports only account for about 10% of truckload demand, so don't get, too deep in the weeds here. It's a big component, but it's not everything. Domestic manufacturing is a much bigger part of it. So we're seeing very high volumes for for February. If you've had a really good year in the intermodal trade space, that's why a lot of inventory's been pulled forward, but we're taking inventory that would have normally come in July, August and September. We've just filled up the warehouses now in advance. So again, doesn't point to a good, strong peak season towards the end. You can track this on Jason Miller, Professor Jason Miller at Michigan State University. He publishes this on about the 15th of each month on LinkedIn. If you really want to know about what's happening in the freight market from someone who's tenured and could not care who they offend, because they're a tenured professor, this guy is probably the best freight market analyst on the planet. Right? Does a really good LinkedIn post every day, Professor Jason Miller. He publishes the Truckload Ton-Mile Index, which is an index based on 41 freight-generating commodities. And his index goes back to the early 2000s, but I've just given you a snapshot here. So this is the ton miles that are on the back of your trucks, right? It's a good proxy for demand. How much freight are we moving? And you can see that we had the pandemic there, ton miles dropped way down. We had January 2022 was kind of as good as it was going to get for us. And then we've been bouncing around. Demand's been very flat. We're about 3% higher than where we were in 2018. We're identical to where we were in January of 2019, right? And we're about 1% lower than where we were in January 2020. Just to give you a sense of where is tonnage in this market right now. Again, none of these data points suggest that the market's going up, do they? They're all sliding sideways or down. And that's what's more concerning for us that look at the health of the industry. We're just not seeing any trigger in the market that says things are going to take off. There's an inflection in the market. In fact, we've got more doubt than anything now about where we're going. None of us really know. I'll be honest, none of us have a clue where this market's going to go because we really don't know how tariffs are going to play out on our major trading partners. Okay, 4 more slides and then I'll wrap up. So these are dry van rates. These are the last 1, 2, 4 freight recessions. What you see is the 2011-12 period. The red line is the dry van line haul spot rate and the orange bars are the year-over-year change. How we define a freight recession is when rates go year-over-year negative to when they go year-over-year positive. Right? So you can see here rates in 2011 were up to 16% higher than the year before. Then they dropped to 7% lower than the year before. So we had that 2012 recession. We had the 13-14 into 15-16. Then we had 17 was a better year. Rates were up 34% compared to the prior year. They peaked in 2017. Then they dropped to 21% lower. So you can see this cyclical nature to the freight market. That's the pattern. But what you see is as the years have gone on, the patterns have got higher and lower. Like there's been more volatility in the market. And then you saw the pandemic there where rates went through the roof. That freight recession that we're still in now, unfortunately, is the longest we've seen in our history. It went up for 29 months. Rates went up for 29 months, and then they fell for almost the same number of months. You could argue some of them are still falling, but they're definitely bottoming out. The most important data point here is if you're wondering, is the market turning around? The answer is very slowly. Remember I showed you the graph of large truckload carriers are trying to reduce their truck counts. They're kind of at the bottom. They're trying to match loads and trucks, but they're still trying to shedding fleet numbers. This data point here on the right is telling you that if you look at the other chains, normally rates come out of the bottom and then they take off. But look at the far right. We came off 35% lower year over year, but it's still bobbling around 1 to 2 to 3%. So we're not seeing an observable inflection point in the market just yet. So that's why I think this is going to drag on for a little bit given all the uncertainty. But that's where we're seeing the sort of the context of where we're at. We're still in the bottom of a freight recessionary period. This is a look at line haul rates. This is the 7-day national rolling average for all of our rates that come in. This is an average. It's just a starting point. But you can see the grey line there kind of in between the blue and the black. That's where national average rates are sitting. This is excluding the fuel surcharge, $1.63 a mile. I ran the forecast this morning, our 35-day forecast. Rates are predicted to drop to $1.48 per mile by the 26th of April. Now remember, the rate cast is running on about 95% accuracy. So that's a horrifying number to tell us where rates are forecast to go. But it's tracking long-term seasonal trends. What you see there is rates typically drop in the first half of the year in dry van, then they pick up around July 4, produce season, Again, we've got to be very careful now well, not careful, but we are hoping that we see a good produce season, because produce season really drives up the freight market through the middle of the year, July 4, and then it falls away. But you can see the red line, you can see the polar vortex event in the red line there, you can see the 2022 year when rates came way down. You can see the orange line, which was the pandemic, where rates crashed and then they took off again. But again, if you strip out those three, you see this pattern where rates kind of drop and then they bounce up a bit and then they sort of bounce around it towards the end of the year. But again, if I drew a line about where we think they are, they're going to be pretty much where the light blue and the black lines are, which is pretty flat. Again, this is the spot market. This is about 20% of the loads that are moved each day, and it represents about a third of the market. So it's a pretty good indicator about where we think. If it's $1.63 for the national 7-day average, then I report this every week with a newsletter that you could all have for free if you want, and we cover it on our DATIQ show that we have 10 a.m. Tuesdays on YouTube. If you want to get this information and get these graphs, happy to share it with you. We give it away for free. If the national average is $1.63, our top 50 lanes are $1.91, and more importantly, our bellwether states, which are highly correlated to the national average, which are all the Midwest manufacturing states, that's the market you've got to watch, because that'll tell you about where national rates are going. The Midwest bellwether states are running about $1.87 a mile, but last week they dropped 3 cents a mile on a 5% higher volume. So what does more volume and lower rates tell you? It's more trucks than loads. Rates are going down, right? So that's one thing I report on every week. I'm really watching for when our bellwether states start to show a rate inflection. Then we'll know that we've got some momentum in this market. So that's where rates are sitting right now. Last two slides. 2 data points to watch to say, has this market changed fundamentally? Is it about to take off? So this data point here comes from our shipper side of our consortium, where we get about $50 billion in freight spend. About a third of DAT's business is shippers. So these are contract rates. These aren't spot rates. These are contract rates that are negotiated through an RFP on an annual basis. We're just coming out of bid season. Last quarter of last year is bid season. Shippers have sent out all their lanes, carriers have bid on them, and we've got all the routing guides set up, and cheapest carriers at the top, and down we go. So this chart is the percentage change of carriers' rates this year to last year. How much have they dropped their rates or increased their rates to hold the volume? So it tells you these are brand new rates that a carrier has negotiated with their large shipper entering the market for the first time. They're not the 1,000 loads that Kellogg's moved on Chicago to Boise last week, right? That was last year's rate. This year's rate is coming in about 1.7% higher, right? So carriers are slowly getting back pricing power, slowly. But look at the shape of the charts. We've been negative for almost 3 years. Positive territory for a year after being almost negative for 3 years. So the market's been in positive territory. Again, previous slide I showed you how we were sort of bouncing around the bottom. Look at the middle blue patch there when rates went through the roof during the pandemic and then fell away. But look at that far right shape of that blue curve. See, we're coming out of negative year-over-year territory. Carriers have been dropping their rates for all of that period in red, and they're just coming into the blue, but it's flat. It's flat. Sometimes, some weeks it's negative, and then it comes back to positive. So we're still at the bottom of the market. This is 80% of the freight moved. New rates coming into routing guides are barely positive. So we're kind of, it's improving. If I showed you the charts for flatbed and reefer, it's all red. They aren't positive. Flatbed contract rates for large carriers are dropping at about 6%. So large contract flatbed carriers are still dropping their rates to hold volume. So dry van's improving, slowly, ever so slowly. We're trying to get rid of trucks on the road, like we're still trying to get to where loads equal trucks. We're still at the bottom of this trough. The outlook looks pretty hazy right now. But flatbed and reefer, I think, are going to be real struggle years. So again, we report this every week. When that number on the far right, replacement rate, starts to get into serious positive territory, you'll know that the market is starting to improve. We're not there yet. It looks good, but we're not there yet. The last slide. you will know that this freight market is off to the races if intermodal spot rates go up at the same time spot rates do for truckload. Now again, this is something I report. You won't probably find this in a lot of mainstream media. So remember, intermodal, 53-foot intermodal boxes, are an outlet for capacity for shippers when they can't find trucks. So when capacity gets tight in truckload, where do shippers go to move their freight? They go to 53-foot intermodal boxes on a train. And the spot market on a train is only 5% of the slots on a train. Most of the trains are contract rates. You see those J.B. Hunt and Schneider double-stack trains? 5% of those wagon slots are kept for the spot market. So it's not much, but that market goes crazy when trucks are in tight supply. So look at the shape of these charts. The blue is dry van, the amber is intermodal spot. Look on the far right how they're going sort of sideways, right? You will know this market's turned when they both go up at the same time. Now, truckload leads the market here by about 1 to 2 months. So if we start to see truckload spot rates go up, and then in 1 to 2 months intermodal spot rates come up, you know the market's changed because shippers are trying to find slots on trains to move freight that they can't move on a truck. You'll know then that this market has turned. So just looking at our rates, you won't get the full picture about how shippers are thinking. So there's 2 data points to watch. New rates coming into routing guides, which we report on every week, so you can track that. And this one here I'll probably publish every month, so you can see when there's an inflection point and when these data points start to go up. All right. So that's all I've got. Again, we publish this weekly. Come and see me. I'm out there at the front row on the tree. I'll be back there at midday. Come and see me if you've got questions. Happy to share any information with you. That's our business. We're trying to make sure that you get through this year. And if you've got any questions, come and see me out there and I'll be able to answer them for you. Thank you, Brent.
Yeah. All right, man. Good job. Let me have the remote. All right. So was your brain working now? It's like a PhD level class on freight. And I hope that you all, if you're new to this, that you see there are so many pieces of the puzzle when it comes to freight. It is and I'm not kidding about this, an over $1 trillion industry. There's very few industries in the world that measure at that level, and obviously it's necessary to our lives. And so Dean and I get to talk all the time about this, and there's never enough time to talk about freight transportation. And one of the things that's super important to remember, trucking is a derived demand of the U.S. economy. So if you want to know how the U.S. economy is doing, look at trucking, especially on the spot side, because we see the data, Truckstop and DAT see the data in 7 days. And so we see it faster than anybody else. So pay attention to it because you can see the indicators on how well the U.S. economy and even the global economy is doing. All right, so you're in for a treat. About a decade ago, I noticed something new about the FMCSA. That's the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. For any of you that are new to the industry, they are the governing body, the agency that's part of the Department of Transportation that governs our industry and regulates our industry. We need them because they keep us safe. But about a decade ago, a lot of things changed with them. They started communicating a lot more open and better and more friendly and really focusing on almost like customer service, which was unique. And I give a lot of credit to that to one of the gentlemen that's going to come on the stage today, Mr. Ken Riddle. And Ken is an excellent communicator, but he just comes across as somebody who really cares about our country, cares about trucking, about how well we do. So we're in for a treat. We're connected, Truckstop, and I know DAT as well, connected to 24/7 because of the safety data that goes on through them. So we're going to have about 45 minutes for them to talk about what's going on in the marketplace from regulations and fraud, and I'm sure they'll talk about some other things. We have 2 different presentations. Ken's going to speak first, and then Pavan Pittigu is going to speak second. So welcome to the stage, Ken Riddle, the Director of the Office of Registration of the FMCSA, and then Pavan's going to be next, and Pavan is the present Chief Technology Officer of FMCSA, but he's also the Chief Information Officer of the DOT. So he gets to have 2 jobs. So gentlemen, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Brent.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Pavan? Yes, sir.
So as Brent said, my name is Ken Riddle. I'm the Office Director for Registration for the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. That means my office does all things US DOT numbers, MC numbers, insurance, process agents, and supports the full life cycle of carriers, brokers, and freight forwarders. I'm happy to share the stage. Actually, Pavan's sharing the stage with me because he is our Department of Transportation Chief Information Officer, CIO. Pavan was in FMCSA as our Chief Technology Officer, but now has risen up to the very top and works at the department now. But everything I'm going to present today, we couldn't be where we are today without Pavan's support, both as the FMCSA CTO and now as the departmental CIO. His support has been phenomenal. So we are making a lot of progress in the registration arena that I want to share with you today. I want to talk to you about two things. One is what we're going to do to help mitigate the fraud that the industry is experiencing, and it's at an all-time high. I know you know that. It's coming from every corner of the industry, and it's coming hard. In many different ways. We could talk for 20 minutes about the different types of fraud we're seeing and the different ways that it's coming at the industry, and we want to do our part to help mitigate that fraud. And then I want to talk to you a little bit about the new registration system. So identity verification. We're going to roll out identity verification very soon because we need to protect the front door of the registration system. We need to control who gets in and registers with FMCSA for DOT numbers and authority. So we're getting ready to introduce identity verification that'll verify every single person that's coming in the front door to get registration. It absolutely ties into our safety mission, protecting your data, protecting the public's data, making sure that only legitimate businesses get registration. When we roll it out very soon, it's going to be for new applicants only, using our existing, what I call legacy registration system. So, which is URS, the Unified Registration System. When we roll out the new system later this year that we'll talk about, it will be for all registrants, new and existing. But we didn't want to wait to roll this out for the new system because the new system's still being developed. We needed to do something right now. And so we're going to introduce identity verification as part of our existing system for all new applicants. Again, protecting that front door right away. And like I said, down the road, we'll roll it out for everybody. It's a simple 5-step process. We contracted with a company called IDEMIA, IDEMIA. They are the same company that provides security at our TSA checkpoints. So when you're flying out of Louisville, if you flew in, and you go up to the TSA checkpoint to get your, have them look at your driver's license and take a photo of yourself, look at the podium at that TSA agent stand. It will say IDEMIA. We contracted with the same company for identity verification because they know what they're doing. They'll, during the application process, the applicant will see this QR code. They will scan it, and I'm going to show you what this looks like with screenshots. They'll scan a document. We're accepting 4 types of documents: a driver's license, a passport, a resident card, and an identity card. Those are the 4 types of identification we're accepting, that IDEMIA accepts. Then you'll scan your face and submit the documents and go back to the registration system to see whether you passed or failed. You don't have to download an app. When you scan that QR code, it's a web-based application. It takes you to IDEMIA's site. You're now in IDEMIA's environment. You complete the process, then go back to the registration site, and it'll tell you whether you passed or failed and what to do next. And I should point out there at the bottom of the slide, at no time does FMCSA nor IDEMIA store any personal information. It is erased at the completion of the process. So here's what the screen looks like in the application process and for new applicants. This is our unified registration system. It is towards the end. I wish we could have put it at the very beginning, protect the front door before we even start the application, but our code is so old that it had to be built towards the end. So right after you sign the oaths and certifications, before you get to the payment page, this QR code will show up. And it looks just like this. This is the page. You'll need, and you're probably on your PC or your laptop filling out the application. And then you'll pull out your smartphone and scan the QR code, because you do need a smart device to scan the QR code. And that'll start the process with IDEMIA. Here's what the first screen looks like. I'm not going to show you all the screen. I'm just going to highlight some of the screens. You'll pick, there's one of 5 languages that IDEMIA is accepting right now. It takes the app times out in 30 minutes, but this takes less than 5 minutes, so that's not an issue. URS, the application system, times out in 15 minutes, but that's okay because it only takes about 5 minutes. But if URS does time out, that's fine. You can log back in, get back to the QR page, and it'll let you continue. But you'll start the process. You'll select what document you're going to use, one of those 4 documents I previously mentioned. You'll scan the document. It'll ask for access to your phone. We blurred this out because this is actually a driver's license from my office. You scan the front and back of the driver's license. It will take the picture, and it'll give you on-screen instructions. Hold still, get closer, get further away, until it takes the picture. It'll take the picture for you. And you'll do the front and back of your driver's license. I'm sure you have all experienced this, whether it was with your bank or with the IRS or another commercial company, because this is this is in multiple industries today that we have to do this to prove our identity. It'll then ask you to, hey, check the results. Is it centered? Is everything clear? Can it read the information on the driver's license? And if it's all good to go, you'll hit submit. Then it'll ask you to scan your face. And again, it'll give you on-screen instructions on how to do this. And then when that orange light starts to rotate around, it's taking the picture. And it'll take the picture when it sees that it's clear and it's centered and it's steady. If you want to experience this, we are demonstrating this at the FMCSA booth, which is in this hall, right in the main foyer. And Alex will have you scan a QR code, and it's live in IDEMIA, and you can go through this process. And it'll tell you whether you pass or fail. Hopefully everybody will pass. But you can go through this process live anytime during the truck show here. At the end of it, and there's a lot more screenshots in this, at the end of it is success. That doesn't mean you successfully passed. It means you successfully uploaded the documents, right? Remember, you got to go back to the application on your PC or laptop to find out if you passed or failed. You'll click the Proceed Here button back on the computer, and it's going to tell you whether you passed or failed. If you passed, you'll get a screen like this saying you successfully completed it, and you'll be able to hit the next button in the application and finish the application. If you fail, you'll get a message saying the process failed. And you need to remember that reference number, better known as an error code, right? So you'll get a reference number, and you can call our contact center, FMCSA Contact Center, and they'll be able to help tell you why you failed. They have a list of reference codes, and they can say, well, it's because your driver's license was expired, or the passport was blurry, or for some other reason. They'll be able to help you figure out if you failed, why you failed. The first thing they're going to tell you to do is try it again. Because, sometimes it's sensitive, the light's not right, the shadows, and it's going to ask you to try again. And maybe try again with a different document. If you use your driver's license, maybe try the passport next. But 99.9% of everybody can get through this process at the kitchen table. Again, step 1 is try again. Step 2 is call our contact center. They've got a list of reference codes and can help you figure out the next step. As a last resort, if you can't get through the process, our contact center will refer you to an IDEMIA enrollment center to help you through the process. Now, the only thing they can help you do is scan that code, take a picture of your driver's license, scan your face, and hit submit. That's all they can help you with. And I think everybody can figure that out on their own. So we're hoping nobody has to visit an enrollment center for one-on-one help. But if you do, they're going to be available. We contracted for 300 enrollment centers around the U.S. territories and islands to start. If we need more, we'll add more, but we don't think we're going to need more because we don't think that many people are going to need help scanning a QR code, scanning their face, etc. There'll be 67 when we roll this out soon. There'll be 87 by the end of April until we get to 300. We're adding them just as quick as we can add them to get up to 300, just in case somebody needs that one-on-one help getting through the process. And then this website's going to go live right before we roll this out. So there's actually a video on our registration website that shows the process live in case you want to watch that video before you do it. There's a fact sheet. There'll be a list of enrollment centers, but we want you to call the contact center first. They'll refer you to an enrollment center if absolutely needed. But there'll be more information coming on this. And now I'm going to turn it over to Pavan to talk about our registration system.
Thank you, Ken. Good morning again. Ken's been too kind. I didn't do anything alone. I had a good partner and good team. So together, we are on a journey to make sure that any tool that we give you to interact with FMCSA or continue to do what you're supposed to do in a more efficient manner, with either giving data to us or taking data from us, keep it simple and seamless. I just want to see by raise of hands, how many of you use Portal? Okay, few. MCMS? Heard of MCMS? None of you use? Anybody use L&I? Nobody use? Okay. Does anyone like them? The things that I mentioned, can anyone raise hand if you're really, really in love with those? Wow, 0. I think I'm in agreement with you. We have too many different fragmented systems that were built for the right reasons, and they did serve their purpose when they were built. Like when Portal came, there was a need for Portal, and we stood that up. When we needed to create L&I, we stood it up. It served its purpose. But in the day and age that we live in today, where technology is seamlessly integrated, imagine any of us wanting to have like 4 Netflix apps on our phone, one for watching action movies and kids movies and family movies. Would any of us go and have those 4 different Netflix apps? Anyone? Okay. So same with us, right? Like, why do we need to have too many fragmented places? If you are a carrier, and if you need to manage your data that FMCSA needs to, or if you need to update your address, or if you need to, tie in and give biannual updates, we make you go through multiple segments of FMCSA systems to do different actions. Sometimes, if you're new, it's almost impossible to kind of get used to, okay, which system do I go to do what, right? You need lots of decision trees or flowcharts up on the wall, and it's not easy. And also these systems, as carriers, as truckers, drivers, operators, you may not be having the luxury of sitting in your office all the time. And these don't work well in smaller form factors. These don't work well on some devices at all. They're not user-friendly. And depending on when you updated your address and where you updated it, the portal, the L&I, and getting it reconciled takes time. So at any given time, there may be some discrepancy to the data. And we all know, again, I've been in the agency for 4 years now, 4+ years, and we've gotten a lot better in keeping those legacy applications or the old applications stable. But portal still goes down every now and then. We have issues with L&I. It's both inefficient from your perspective as well as our perspective. We have a lot of manual processes because of the way these systems are built. We can be efficient on our end, trying to process these applications or requests quicker, keep the data available for those that are in the safety advocacy businesses to have the registration data or other details simple. And also, time to time, when the inspections are done, as owners, you may be relying most of the time on the drivers making sure they hand in the inspection report to you. So we're trying to streamline all of this and make it simple, right? If I were to look at, how can I visualize what does a carrier need to do, I have similar maps on, a third-party insurance company or, a third-party organization that is supporting as a BOC3 filer. We have similar journey maps for each role or each type of entity that is in the carrier business, including, as Ken's office is a user of these systems, what is their life cycle? And I just took as an example to show or give you a glimpse of what a carrier life cycle is and how fragmented we are. Some of it is done in these two systems. A little bit more is done in other system. And maybe you need to go back and forth in those two systems given what you may actually be doing. And then more. The list continued to grow, right? So these are 4 that I know of that as a carrier people use today. And I think at some point that has to stop if we're talking about giving that flexibility and freedom of technology choices in today's world. So all of these fragmented systems, we are building and launching Motus, which will be one-stop shop for carriers, one-stop shop for the supporting organizations that helps the carriers and works with FMCSA to be able to do any transaction and every transaction with FMCSA that's related to your registration, related to your authorities, related to your biannual updates, all in one-stop shop.
Motus, the ultimate one-stop shop for motor carriers. Accessible from any device with a browser, Motus enables motor carriers to carry out all transactions and compliance activities. With FMCSA, anytime, anywhere. With integrated fraud-resistant features, Motus protects carrier information and consumers, ensuring security at every step. Motus facilitates efficient information exchange, strengthening connections and building a more robust, resilient supply chain. Driving innovation, security, and connectivity for motor carriers. The road ahead has never been clearer.
So we want to keep it really, really simple, very user-friendly. We want it to be able to work on any device, any platform, any OS, any browser. We want to kind of simplify and make it easy for you, whether you're really, really new into the trucking business or the supporting organization business. We want to have the system guide you, or if you are very experienced, know all the laws, regulations, you can guide through the system without any issues or challenges. Think of all our day-to-day applications we use or the businesses we deal with, whether it's banking or shopping. They don't need to give us a 30-minute long training on how to use a banking app. I should be able to go be able to check my balance, deposit a check, or do something. Send someone, a friend or family, transfer some money through Zelle. When Zelle came, we didn't sit through any Zoom meeting to go through Zelle's ability to learn how to transfer the funds, right? It's intuitive. That's what we want to bring, that architecture of the application, supporting not only today's needs, what processes exist today, but when things change, how do we, FMCSA, and our technology also changes that quickly? And it should not take months or years for that changes to be made. And we want to keep it very, very seamlessly integrated with all FMCSA systems as well as third-party tools. You know, when an inspection is done, this is a carrier's one-stop shop. You should be able to review your company's inspection data on this portal for you. You know, this is our goal. These are lofty goals. But again, with the right partnership, we believe we have right teams, and we're going to make it happen this year. I'm going to hand it back to Ken for talking through the next steps and what you can expect the rest of the year. Thank you.
Thanks, Pawan. So when we roll out this new system that was just unveiled as Modus later this year, we're going to do it in 3 steps. The first step is going to be we're going to open it to supporting companies. And what we mean by supporting companies is industry service providers that assist registrants with registration and other services, our financial responsibility filers, mostly your insurance companies, trust funds providers and bond providers, and also our BOC3 filers, our blanket companies. We're going to open the system to those supporting companies only, limited access, so they can come in and create their accounts. Because they need to be ready to support the rest of the industry when we open it for everybody. So that's step 1, limited access. They won't be able to do anything other than create their accounts. But they need to be ready to support everybody else when we open the system. And then the third step is, the second step is we open it to everybody, new and existing registrants. To do anything that you need to do today, you can do it in this single system as far as your registration is concerned. And then the third step is continuous improvement. Everything won't be in Release 1, but all the basic functionality will be in Release 1. I spoke last year at MATS about all the great things that are going to come with this new system. And they are. Except we had to take a little bit of an appetite suppressant, right? Because we needed to get a new system, more stable, more secure, more user-friendly, on the street quicker, versus waiting for everything to be done and then rolling it out. So we took a little bit of an appetite suppressant. All this stuff is still going to be in Release 1 that you see on the screen today. It's going to have the identity verification. It's going to have improved principal place of business verification checks. It's going to be able to do everything you can do today in our multiple systems. But there's a few things that we're not going to roll out with Release 1. And let me tell you why. We held several stakeholder days where we listened to industry. We presented the new system, what we were developing. We took feedback, and we took that feedback back to the development process. And we did this on several occasions. And there were 3 themes we heard from industry when we held these stakeholder days. One is, wait a minute, you're getting rid of the docket number? You're getting rid of the MC number? I built my IT systems around the MC number. I built my business processes around the MC number. And so we're going to wait on that a little bit longer. We're going to communicate that. We want more feedback on that before we do it. So that will not be part of Release 1. That's important for everybody to know. That we were going to do away with the MC number on Release 1. Now we are not. We are going to wait a little bit longer. So we will continue to issue MC numbers upon Release 1. The second thing is we were going to issue safety registration. Safety registration is in our statute and regs today. However, we don't issue a safety registration. So we were going to issue one. Not everybody understands what a safety registration is or how we're going to manage it. So we want to take our time and communicate that better and communicate it more and get more feedback. And then lastly, we're going to change the BOC3 filing process. Right now, blanket companies file on behalf of carriers. To be more in line with statute, we were going to have carriers fill out their own BOC3 information during the application process and select a blanket company. We got a lot of feedback on that. Blanket companies go, whoa, wait a minute, I got to change my entire customer acquisition process. And carriers are like, no, I don't want to file my BOC3. So we're going to hold on that, get more feedback, communicate it before we make these changes. So these are 3 things that are not going to happen on Release 1 that we initially thought were going to happen on Release 1, but it's for good reason. And it'll also allow us to get a system on the street quicker. These are just a few of the screenshots. Many of these were flashed during the Modus video, but everybody will have a user profile to fill out. Unlike today, even our supporting industry service providers will have a profile to fill out. They'll have to create an account along with the financial filers and the BOC3 filers. So everybody that enters the system will have a profile and have an account. It'll be easier to upload documents. If you need to submit something to FMCSA, supporting evidence or a document we need, it'll be a drag and drop. It'll be easy to upload those documents. Everyone will have an account, kind of like your bank account. That doesn't exist in today's systems. But you'll be able to go to your account, see the status of your registrations, look at any letters we've sent you, look at the grant letter, the certificates of authority that we've sent you, all right there in your account, as it should be. You'll control access to your account. Everyone will control access to their account. This will be a user-based system. You will control who can access your account and who cannot. Same thing with financial filers. They'll be able to go in there and see all the insurance filings that they've made for the carriers, brokers, freight forwarders that they support. Same thing with the BOC3 companies. And they'll be easier to get help from our contact center, whether you want to chat, call, email. It'll be easier to get support right during the application process. And we've already started to populate our website here with information to include those 3 things that are not going to happen right away. That's already on the website. So in our registrations resources hub, on the registration website in FMCSA, you can go there and see updated information about this new system being built. And that's it. And I think we're going to be coming back up at the end for questions. So thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you, Pavan. Yeah. I don't know about you, but thank you, Ken. Good job, man. Thank you. So remember, they're going to come back up. We're going to have the panel and then FMCSA up for Q&A. Yes, there'll be a live mic going around, so be thinking of your questions now. The thing that encouraged me about what Pavan said about the registration system is that, and what Ken said, is that it'll be an iterative release. And now I know that sounds funny. So I've been in technology about 12 years on the freight matching side, and I know a lot about technology. And when you release it, an iterative release allows for the most improvement in it along the way, and it tends not to break as much, which is super important when you control the entire database for trucking for the United States. So I applaud that. Pavan, thank you so much for making a point out of that on how you guys are going to do it and bring it to the marketplace. That's super important. All right, so and remember, we do have Q&A at the end. Please be thinking of some questions. We're going to do a little stage change real quick. Please don't go in. I'm going to stand right here while they do the stage change. You're going to bring some chairs up here, I believe. I'm not sure who's handling that. Maybe it's me. I don't know. I'm capable if I need to do it. Mike, do you know who's handling that? Okay. Well, fantastic. Toby, who's going to handle bringing the new stuff? You got it. Okay, fantastic. All right, so I appreciated what Dean had to say. I know he had to run off and everything. when he talked about this, the truck marketplace, the reason that, and this is encouragement for all you guys. So if you want to understand how trucking is beginning to change, or if you're new to this and you're like, okay, I got to figure some of this out, just look at what the spot market's doing for freight. And the reason why I say look at the spot market is that you see that data within the last 7 days of what's moved in the United States. And it's about 150 million of the movements that happen in the United States. So about 150 million of 900 million movements of freight in the United States. But you get the data in lightning quick in the last 7 days. This is why, by the way, our data is connected with Bloomberg. Bloomberg being sort of the mouthpiece to all the entire public, marketplaces for buying stocks and bonds and all sorts of things like that. The reason why they look at our data is it's an indicator on what the U.S. economy is going to do. So if you want to know what's going on for our economy, look at the spot market. Truckstop publishes this, DAT publishes this. So just take a look at that. I promise you, if you'll watch that over time, you'll be able to, and this is what's important, all right? This is what's super important about your business, whether you're a manufacturer in this marketplace or you're one of the great trucking companies in our industry. You'll be able to understand, and I'm telling you this is so important, you will be able to understand what's coming at you. How's the market changing? Is it doing this? Is it going up and getting better, staying the same, or is it going down? You will know this. I've been able to see it for 20 years. It's so neat being able to go, and that's why people call me all the time. Like, how's the marketplace doing, Brent? And I go, well, I'll send you the data every week. Just it's going to do this, or it's going to do this, or it's going to do this. But you can look at it over time, and that's a big advantage for us in the freight industry, because I know that your operations run. It's a penny's business, and it's a difficult industry because we're kind of a commodity in the marketplace because we're so big. So super important. Oh man, we got a bunch of chairs up here. All right, fantastic. We almost ready? Yeah, I get it. Me and Toby are going to move the podium. Thank you. Look at the muscles on this guy. All right. Thank you, sir. I'm moving the podium because when I stand when I ask questions, and I didn't want to stand with my back against the podium over here. All right. So thank you, sir. Thank you, Toby. Thank you, team. All right. So I give you guys that information because I promise you, we need trucking to be healthy in America if we want to have a great country. And we need to do everything we can to look at the information, help you guys, and provide the information, but for you to be able to look at the information to help you be successful, whether you're a trucking company or you're manufacturing something for trucking. So super important. All right, so we got a fun panel coming up. This is where the rubber meets the road. All right, you got to talk to a data guy, you got to talk to the FMCSA, our wonderful governing body. Now we're going to have 5 people come to the stage. We're going to talk about some practical things on how a lot of what Dean talked about and what Ken and Pavan talked about. So if you guys will come on up to the stage, my panelists, if you guys don't mind. And the good thing is we're right on time. How about that? So you guys can get to the truck show. I love it. I love to see the trucks. Don't forget to see the show trucks out front. I love the show trucks. Look at all the manufacturing. Hey, by the way, this is a little side note. You guys take a seat, and make sure you eat a pork chop sandwich if you're available to do that, because the Kentucky pork producers need you to eat a pork chop sandwich. That's one of my big deals when I tell all my team when we come to the show, we got to eat a pork chop sandwich because it's kind of part of the history and lore of the Mid-America Trucking Show. All right, enough of that. You guys, all right? All right, fantastic. All right, so joining me today is Jason Cowan. I'll start from this side. Jason Cowan. Jason is the founder and president of Silver Creek Transportation. He's been in it 45 years, and he told me yesterday he was kind of like born into it, so he has been in the industry since he was in utero, if you know what I'm saying. All right, so Jason has, next to him is Jamie Hagan, who has the coolest name as a company ever, Hellbent Express. So by the way, Jason has 45 trucks, and so 45 trucks on Jason. Jamie is the president and owner of Hellbent Express. By the way, that was his handle. He was known as Hellbent, so he said, when he was registering, he said, I'm Hellbent Express. And so that's how he got the name of his company. So Jamie, thank you so much for joining. He has 9 trucks. He's been in his whole life as well, which, by the way, you'll find that as a common theme in our industry. It's a generational business, a multi-generational business. Toby is the grandson of the guy that started Mid-America. Which kind of gives you an idea of the history of this show. All right, in the middle, my good friend Jessica Dotson. She's the co-owner of Dotson Transportation. They're a one-truck independent contractor business, and she also works in the industry, but she handles she's partnered with her husband in this, and she handles all the back office, which is a very common a combination for operations in the marketplace. All right, and next to her in the jacket is my good friend Tyler Johnston, who is the Director of Operations for Mercer Transportation, located right here in Louisville. They're a very large player in the marketplace. They have 1,700 independent contractors that work for them, and then they have a very large brokerage as well. So you'll hear both sides from Tyler. Tyler, thanks for joining. And then the man himself, my good friend, Mr. Louis Pugh from the Owner-Operator Independent Driver Association. Louis is the Executive Vice President of OIDA, and you also see him. He's the guy in Washington. He's the man on the street. He was a truck driver for, 25 years. Right, okay, there you go. All right, so I really appreciate you guys. I want to start this off on just a general quick question. Just give me a quick answer. So we're going to do this for about 25 minutes or so. I know there's 5 of them up, but there's going to be Q&A at the end, so they'll get to contribute some more. All right, so my first question. And no, it's not on the questions that I gave you, but it's a general one. It's a super general, okay? I don't like to surprise any panelists. All right, so let's go right down the line. All right, we got through the pandemic, and Dean talked about it. We had 28, 29 months of expansion. If you know economics, okay, economic curves do this and this, just like going to the beach and seeing waves, okay? We went up for 29 months, and boy, it was fantastic for every trucking company. You made so much money. You paid off debt. You may have bought another truck, bought more chrome for your truck or whatever that you did, and it came down. I know, lots of chrome on trucks. I love chrome on trucks. Then it came down. Now, it just came down to normal, but it felt like we're falling off a cliff. All right, I realize that. All right, so, but it's been normal ever since, and if we didn't have inflation, that's kind of train wrecking just about everybody's bottom line, we'd just be in a normal market because the freight volumes are the indicator of normality. So we've been 29 months in a big market, 29 months or so in a difficult market, or that some would say a difficult market. All right, so look at that head shaking up here. All right, so starting with you, Jason. Last 12 months, how has your operation fared with sort of the business operations and profitability?
Well, it's been quite a challenge.
Yeah.
And I think the key to what we looked at was that we stay the course of the plan that we made.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the market does. There's that emotionalism that says, oh, things are good, oh, they're bad, and
right.
we tend to make our decisions off that. But when you do things like what we saw this morning, where you look at the data,
right.
you look at what your numbers are daily, right. And then out of that, you can make your decisions, take the emotion side out of it, and just keep working the plan.
Okay.
And then, if you need to tweak that plan, you don't have to be married to it, but,
right.
I think once we take the emotional side of, oh man, is it good, is it bad out,
right.
see where you actually are, then you can make a plan that works, because typically the data doesn't lie.
So you've been adjusting all along.
Yes.
Is your profitability, is enough profitability in the market for you?
Well, it's enough to keep us from being homeless.
Okay, not a bad thing. All right, thank you. All right, Jamie, all right, 9 trucks.
You've got a home?
You got a home.
Lucky. No.
You can order one off Amazon. I just saw it the other day. It folds out. It's fantastic. So, yes, sir.
It's dumpster fire, I guess, is the best
Go
way
ahead,
to describe it. We had some great customers, but then everyone started shrinking, so, most of our customers got kind of sucked up from other companies,
Right. Hold the mic a little closer.
Stealing the, freight from us, so to speak. I shouldn't say stealing. Undercutting us in price value.
Right.
And then, so we've had to adjust quite a bit. What we started the year off, we didn't end the year with, the customers. So we just, constant adjustment. Like you said, not sticking to the plan, keeping the plan flexible. Shrinking in size like they talked about. We went from 12 to 9. So, just keeping our bottom line as razor thin as we can.
Right. So, adjusting. All right, so you got 45 trucks, 9 trucks. We're going to move to 1 truck. All right, just tell a little bit, tell them about how's your operation doing. One of the things I had Jessica on my podcast, and I was amazed at how well she knew the operation. Just blew me away, and I can understand why they were profitable, because they pay attention to their numbers. 1 truck operation. All right, so tell us about it.
Slight correction. We do run 2 trucks.
2 trucks now. Okay,
we have
sorry.
2 trucks because it's important for us. If 1 truck's in the shop, we have another truck to run.
Okay.
Fortunately, we had 1 truck paid off. We don't have to worry about a payment on
Hold
that.
the mic a little closer. Thanks.
I'm usually not guilty of not talking loud enough. So my husband, he measures every operational cost down to the penny. We are making sure we're running the right tires, we're getting the right fuel, we're making sure we're spending the least in fuel, the right fuel card with discounts. But he also is very strategic about making sure that he's not running lanes, chasing the dollar and losing profitability. So he's monitoring what the rate's going to pay. Yeah. He's contracted on. Back up a little bit. We were under our own MC, and when the economic crisis happened, we decided to lease on.
Okay.
That protected our business.
Which is very common.
That, we wanted to make sure that we still had profitability coming in our house. But there were many times he sat still. He runs containers. So the loads weren't there. They weren't available. But instead of running lanes that were going to be below where we're in the black, he would sit still. And he was more profitable that way. Okay. So it just, as you said, ebbs and flows. We've been in the industry for a little bit over 12 years now. And you see, if you look historically, even beyond that, it goes up and down. Yeah. We're also part of OOIDA. We make sure that we keep our expenses down.
You're part of OOIDA? Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So we make sure that we have insurance rates are low. We're always monitoring them. We lean on OOIDA resources if we need to. We typically do everything in-house because I am able to, kind of manage the back office. But really being extremely deliberate on every single thing that you're putting money into.
Right. Yeah, fantastic. First off, I love her shirt. How many people love her shirt? Love my truck. Yeah, okay, come on. I love her shirt. Jess brought up something very unique. She said they were an independent owner-operator, so they're working for themselves, finding their own freight, and they went to a leased model, so leased onto a fleet. That is one of the most common things that happens in this marketplace. I've been in this marketplace since '98, so I've got a pretty good perspective. Not as much as some, but I have a pretty good perspective. And you see that migration. So even when Dean was talking this morning about truckers leaving the industry, there's a yes and a no to that. And maybe it's just a nuance on how he says it. Truckers typically never leave the industry unless they just decide to retire or go out of business or something. But they typically migrate from one to the other. So you'll see an independent go back to a leased operator. Then this happens in the marketplace all the time. So capacity doesn't always leave. So that's super important to know. So thank you for bringing that out. All right, so moving to a multi-type operation, a very large operation in the marketplace. Tyler, how's the last 12 months been for you guys on both sides, on the IC, on the IC side, and then on the broker side? Yeah.
I get accused of talking too loudly, so I'm gonna throw that down. When profitability dips and margins thin, it creates opportunity. The definition of opportunity is a set of circumstances that allows something to happen. It doesn't say a good set of circumstances. It doesn't say a bad set of circumstances. I always share with my team that our circumstances don't define us. We live in them and we have to be in them. But it has created a good opportunity for us to uncover efficiencies within our operation. Right. We look at costs. We look at what we're spending. We're very intentional, just like you and your husband are, with where we get the most ROI and what we need to cut or what we don't need to spend on. So it's created a unique opportunity, I will say that, over the last 29 months. I wish it would end. Where's Dean at? I think we all wish it would end. We can all echo that, but it really has given us the ability to look at our operation and uncover efficiencies, both on the brokerage side and the asset side. Okay, fantastic. All right, so you're getting a different perspective from Mr. Louis Pugh here. They have, OOIDA has more than 150,000 members and been around since 1973. I made you a little younger. So as you guys listen to your members, and you have a wide variety, obviously, so what do you hear from the members when they talk about, and obviously you go to Washington and talk to people in Washington all the time. You'll see Louis doing a lot of disclosures and representing the owner-operator in OOIDA in Washington. So what do you see, what do you hear from the members?
I mean, a lot of what we've heard here, already is, of course, what we're hearing from our members. And what we advise our members is a lot of what we hear here as well. You need to tighten up your belt. It's very important you know your cost of operation and know whether these loads are profitable or not. And, a big thing that's affecting our members that we heard a little bit about earlier was fraud.
That's my next question. So, all right.
A huge hit to our members. We continue to remind them to work with people they know. When times are like this is the best times to have good relationships with good people, whether it's the carrier you're leased to or whether it's your customers you have. I mean, you take care of them in the down market or in the good market, they'll take care of you in the down market. And that means you don't take advantage of them in when it's good when we have a lesser capacity of trucks, because sometimes that happens. So we don't want to get too greedy, but that's the thing. Like I said, it's been a tough couple years, and we're like, that thing wasn't as exciting as what we wanted it to be and wasn't as good news. But, you know, the good thing is, somebody who trucks through some of these in the past, if you make it through, you're going to come out a lot stronger on the other end.
Yeah, fantastic. So speaking of the marketplace, I do agree with Dean a little bit, except that I would tell you that in the spot market, you're going to see rates come back up throughout the whole year, back to even. So they kind of made up about half the distance in 2024 from where they had dipped down for quite a while, for a couple of years, and then you'll see them make them back. But it's going to be a very slow thing. And honestly, in our industry, slower is probably more predictable, and predictable usually means profitable. So I think you'll see that. But Louis just hit on something that I wanted to make the first question because in October of 2022, things changed for our entire marketplace. And it doesn't matter where you are in the marketplace, it changed for everybody. When fraud went from its normal amount to about 400% more than its normal amount. I'll let that sit in for a second. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars worth of payment theft, cargo theft, and just chaos. And the reason I bring this up is that it is now the first, when I ask, and I talk to a lot of people in the marketplace, I say, what's the first thing on your mind? They say, oh, it's fraud. It's fraud. What's going on? Cargo theft. And so that's what they mean. They don't. And so it comes in a lot of different ways. It comes, like I said, cargo stolen. It goes to payment stolen, and they'll find whatever's the easiest thing to get done. That's what they'll do. These criminals and organized crime will do. And then they're also doing it. They're also going at it by stealing identity and then standard phishing emails, like just the standard stuff you get from the Nigerian prince every month now, or we've gotten for years. It's the same thing. So, and they shift back and forth. So I want to talk about fraud. Just my question about fraud: has it hit you? And then what do you do to mitigate it? What do you mitigate? What do you do to deal with it? So let's see, Louis, you started first. I want to kind of start with you. What do you hear from the members, and then we'll just kind of come back the other way. All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's all over the board. We have members who's had their identity stolen, their carrier, and people have taken their identity, went loaded a load, and stolen the load, and it comes back on them. We've had members who've loaded for brokers who they thought that they were working with someone that they knew, and not under third year, but a Mercer or a Snyder or a C.H. Robinson, and find out that they'd stolen their identity, and it was a fraudulent load, and they never got paid. And then we have, double, triple, quadruple brokering of all these people setting up quick brokers. So the biggest thing we tell our members is, again, know who you're working for. If it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Amen to that.
If it's some great paying load, it's probably not that. And, double check. If you think you're taking this load from a carrier that you know who they are, call them. But it's just so important that you have your own customers and use the spot market as needed and not as not live by it.
Right, fantastic. All right,
yeah, we do a talk later on that talks about if the unicorn load is out there, it's not a real unicorn.
Right. Yeah.
I always tell my guys that the $7,000 load of ping pong balls doesn't actually exist going to Texas. If fraud is prevalent and it's running rampant, and it's easy to point fingers at the FMCSA or whomever. And I like to look internally at our internal processes and fix that first. What can we do besides waiting on someone else to do something? What can we do internally to fix that? We've established multi-level authentication. If everyone remembers way back when, I don't even know if they still do it, but C.H. Robinson used to have the T codes and stuff for carriers that you had to have a specific identity code. We've done similar processes. So anyway, we're trying to mitigate that risk internally first while using external sources as well, good technologies and things like that, because a stolen load sure hurts the bottom line.
Yeah, it wrecks everybody's. And if you're a manufacturer in this marketplace, you're selling to these companies and you don't want them to go out of business. You want to be able to pay their bills. Really important, super important. All right, Jess, okay, 2-truck operation. You guys had any issues with that? And what do you do to ensure that the freight that you're hauling, I realize that you're an independent contractor now, so it's a little different. You're working with another authority, under another authority, but what's been your experience with it?
Yeah, so obviously, we're small, so we're able to micromanage.
Can you hear her okay? Can you hear Jess okay?
We're able to micromanage, every single thing in our operational system. So I manage, obviously, our emails. That's the biggest thing.
Okay.
It, looks like a duck, smells like a duck. It's a duck. So you want to make sure that you're, monitoring your emails coming in, making sure that somebody's not trying to pitch to you something that's a unicorn. But on a different note, keep me in my lane, Brent, because I'll go all the way left. We don't deal necessarily with freight fraud.
Okay.
But we do, and we have been impacted by fuel fraud.
Fuel fraud?
On our fuel card, skimming.
Oh, okay, skimming, yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
That was an increase in 700%.
Oh, my. So another time, more fraud.
Right.
Yeah.
So
anybody else experience that? Skimming?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, hold. Keep your hands up. We got 1, 2, 3. I'm old. Okay, 4. The glasses I got. I can see here if I take this on. Y'all can all laugh. It's okay. I got 5 kids. They laugh at me all the time. All right. So thank you for. Yeah. All right. Keep going on that.
Yeah. So being very hypersensitive to managing your fuel expenses, making sure that you're not just paying a fuel bill, making sure that you're monitoring where did you spend, what did you spend, keeping receipts, making sure you're doing your audits, and then making sure you have protection on. And I advise going with a fuel card product, obviously, and making sure you have 2-pin factor authentication on those. That makes it to where you're
multi-factor authentication on that.
Don't
on everything.
be lazy. Don't do 1, 2, 3. Don't and change your pins often.
Right.
Don't just
I
lean
important.
towards mobile app
Pins and
one-time pin expires.
The simple stuff. Yeah, that's great advice. Change your pins and change your login passwords. Change them all the time. I hate to do it because it's a pain in the butt. It's necessary in the marketplace. I rented a U-Haul and I had to do all that multi-factor carrier identity, and I was renting a $15 U-Haul and had to do all the same thing. All right. So, all right, Jamie. So what's been your experience so far with it?
Well, we got hit with card theft as well. Like that was our thing that we got most this year, and just guys getting skimmed, using it at the pump. So we've been trying our best to get through that.
Right.
Even looking at different ways to pay now instead of using cards, using like Relay Payments has got a really good, cool,
You've been using that
off your app.
Yep.
So you got to get a code. You can't, and it's different every time. So it's, and I will admit, click on a bad email.
You did?
Yes.
No way.
Well, it came from a dealership, a Mac dealership that we use all the time.
And Mac dealership?
Yep, and they sent me a bill, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. They sent it in a PDF, or not a PDF, but in a link. And I clicked the link, and then after that, a bunch of emails went out. You might have gotten one. Saying that I owe you money as well, or you owe me money, like an invoice from me, and all you had to do is click on that. And it was crazy because it came from that dealership, but I verified it came from the right place, and I'm like, that's him. And as soon as I clicked on it, I knew I was in trouble.
I know it. Yeah. So go ahead. Anything else?
No, it's horrible.
Okay. Well,
don't click on it. Whatever you do,
it's horrible.
It ruined our day, the entire day.
Super common, whether you're a large operation, small operation, sort of changing your passwords and PIN codes, but also understand what's coming at you. Do your best to have, if you have an operation that's 10 people, make sure everybody understands your policy on emails and how they work, and on and even cybersecurity. That's one of the biggest problems, and the reason why we have freight fraud so rampant in our marketplace is that we were so busy from 2013 to 2022 trying to get automation into our marketplace that we forgot we needed cybersecurity. And I'm dead serious about this. And so if you have an operation and you don't have good cybersecurity, you don't have to employ somebody if you're a small operation, but know somebody that can get good systems built into yours. It will protect you and you will be happy about it. It's kind of like buying the right insurance for your home. Okay, you need the right insurance because if you have a tornado tear your house in half like I did, you are really happy that you have good insurance. And that extra few $100 really pays dividends. All right, Jason, what did it hit you?
Well, I think just as they've talked about, everything in the transportation sector is about risk management.
Yes, sir.
And so this is just another aspect of risk management. So inside of our operation, that everybody does what they're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. In relationships, we tend to be a little trusting. Sometimes you can't be that way. So how do we verify? Do we verify the information going out? Don't click on links before we wire any money. We're verifying through several different sources. And then one of the things on the freight side is if one of our load planners takes a load and they just start smelling something that's off, track that back all the way to the shipper if you have to. I'm not beyond calling the shipper and say, who did you sell this load to? Who is the? And then, you might find out you're the third company down on the list, and that's not where you want to be. And so if you can catch that before you deliver the load, many times you can you can rectify that. But I think just watch your processes and make sure you have things in place about emails and wiring money and your cards and watching those reports. And then the other thing that you hit on was great. The cyber insurance, in case it does happen to you, is not very expensive. It's pretty cost effective. And like you say, when the tornado comes through and wipes out your cyber life, then you'd be glad you had that.
So fantastic, thank you. So I want to go on, he talked about insurance. I want to talk about insurance. It's super important because, and it relates to fraud, because as we have something stolen and billions of dollars worth of claims go up, guess what else goes up? Your insurance is going to go up. We have inflation in the marketplace. Guess why insurance costs more in 2025 than it did in 2024? Because inflation is still an issue. All right, so it's super important to realize that. It's not just like, oh, they're just wanting to charge me more money. If it costs more to replace it because of inflation, your insurance is going to go up. So I want to talk about insurance for a second. And I'm going to put it in the frame of two things. Number one, fraud and nuclear verdicts. All right, so because nuclear just means it's a verdict way in excess of what common sense would tell you that it is. You see them in some reporting in some areas. And the reason I bring up nuclear verdicts is because if you see a major fleet in America get $100 million, or there's one, I think today, for $400 million or $300 million against another firm out there, you look at it and go, oh, that's bad, man. But it's not me. But it is you. Because if the judgment goes against them and they have to pay it, everybody in this room that has a trucking operation, your insurance is going up because they look at a captive audience completely and they say, what's the risk in that audience? And you're in that audience, whether you're a one-truck operation or you're Knight-Swift. All right, so this is the way it goes. So I want to talk about insurance really quick. What's been your experience as how in the insurance? I'll start on this end with you, Jason. What's been your experience with how your insurance company or marketplace has dealt with you in the idea of fraud and some of the verdicts that are going on in the marketplace? Because this is important, because this is a cost to your operation. If you want to lower your operating costs, you can try to run more miles, and that's a good idea. However, it's really lowering your operating costs the best you can. So if you don't jump in there.
Yeah, don't have claims.
Yeah, well, okay, that's a good one. Yes. Thanks, appreciate that. That's a good one. Yeah, thank you. Don't have claims. What you got?
Well, what I think all of us understand is that every DOT number here has $1 million liability, and there are people out there who, I think it's shifted. We used to see insurance as something that covered the loss that we have.
Right.
I think in the marketplace today, it's how can I get some of that carrier's $1 million? How can I market that? Can I market, and then so many things are out of our control that people are dipping their hands into. If we have an accident, just think about how many different hands are involved in getting a part of that. So it really is, how can we mitigate those types of claims, and how we work with our insurance providers, especially on fraud. There's a lot of good, for us, our insurance company provides a lot of great resources, how to stop fraud, how to stop the cyber thing. And so if we can work with them, and then also they get our feedback on, hey, this is going on. Somebody's trying to market our insurance to get the money that they know is there.
Okay.
And so that we can, because like I say, if it happens to me, the risk.
So you said your insurance company helps protect you against fraud?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask you who you use?
National Interstate.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah. All right, Jamie?
Honestly, we've been fortunate enough not to have any claims so far.
Yeah.
So, we've only been in business 5 years.
He took my advice.
Yeah.
So they just take our money,
Right.
Thankfully.
Oh, you mean you're running a really safe operation?
What's that?
You're running a really safe and protected. The FMCSA is very happy about that.
Crew of guys. Yeah, we have a great crew of guys. But when you're small, you can really control that number.
Yeah.
You're interacting with them all day long. So yeah, we've not had any issues. We've actually seen our insurance dip just a little bit over the 5 years.
Okay.
But that's an anomaly. We got a lot of quotes that were really high, and then we just happened to find one that was really good. And so yeah, we do everything we can to make sure we keep that where it needs to be. Another thing you have to control. Another thing you got to really
just pay attention. Yeah,
because you can quickly get out of control.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, Jess, how are you guys looking at the insurance thing as far as your operation?
Yeah, so fortunately, my husband's accident-free for all 13 years he's been in business.
How many miles?
Over $1 million.
Over $1 million?
Yeah, he's
Hey, that's fantastic, man.
Yeah, but in those miles that he's driven, not only is he accident-free, he's ticket-free.
Yeah.
excuse me, he takes really good care of his truck. He makes sure that he, so funny thing, probably irrelevant to larger fleets, but important to us.
Right.
It was just phlegm from coffee. He makes sure that he washes his trucks. He makes sure that he, thank you. He makes sure that whenever he's running on the road, he knows when brake inspections are going to be. He makes sure that he's not being pulled in for unnecessary ticketing or for, or for overweight. So he keeps his record clean.
Right.
Keeps everything, a lot of people, we have our driver's licenses as four-wheelers out there, and our insurance goes up a little bit. It doesn't affect us as much, but a license for a truck driver is their life. It's their income, it's their household impact. So he does a really good job. He doesn't speed, he leaves on time, he drives in off hours, so he's not affected by rush hour or, possible collisions. So again, running very, very strategic with your operations and making sure that you're not impacted by those increases in insurance are extremely important to being able to stay stable in what we've experienced in the industry. And he's managed to keep his, trucking company alive. But we also run 1 to 2 trucks because of the fear of adding additional trucks to impact our DAC records and our scores and our insurance, because that is our MC number they'd be running under.
All right, so if you're running a trucking operation, I hope you guys are hearing this, pay attention to the details. The little things always kill you, so pay attention to details. Fantastic. Ty?
Yeah, from our perspective, I'll address it from both sides: the nuclear verdicts and fraud, and what we see happening and what we think is going to happen. I saw a judgment. I don't know when. A couple of years ago, maybe down in Florida, of a one-truck operation that received $100 or $150 million judgment.
A one-truck operation?
Yes.
Wow.
Now, that is a judgment. They're never going to collect on that money. Period. It's never going to happen. But the billboard lawyers and everybody else get to put that in as touting that they received this this win. So nuclear verdicts are doing one thing big to carriers. Carriers are looking to reduce costs and take on more risk because they just quite simply can't afford a lot of insurance. Insurance is going up, so they're risking a little bit more to reduce those costs. And on the fraud side, there's so much of it. We're seeing a lot of insurers exiting the marketplace.
Yep, that's true.
They don't want to insure trucking companies anymore.
Those may not have been the insurance companies you needed anyways.
No, right. So and unfortunately, without complete tort reform or something along those lines, we need to do something in the industry about that. But I do see carriers taking on more risk, and in order to reduce costs, especially at a time like this when they're looking for efficiencies any way they can.
Yeah, no, thank you, Tyler. So, Louis, I know you guys, OIDA does a good job in supplying insurance or selling insurance to a partner to the marketplace. Talk a little bit about what you see from the membership and even OIDA's point of view on it.
Yeah, I mean, we do offer insurance to our members. It's one of our programs that we have if you're a member at OIDA. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for these things going up, and I know it's hard, and we hate it. We have to raise our rates as well because, of course, as we all know, we talked about earlier, cost of repair and trucks and all this stuff has just went crazy. So, of course, if somebody has an accident, unfortunate thing happen, it costs more to fix their truck. We also have lots of people coming after us. I'm sure in this next highway bill, which is just kicking off now, we've heard it the last probably 10 years, they want to increase insurance minimums as high as $5 million. And, that's because of all these trial attorneys and all the millions of billboards you all see running up and down the road. Since medical got tort reform, now trial attorneys have moved to truckers. You're the new target. And as you said, we need to be looking for tort reform around this country. Other big thing that we hear, and it's coming at us, and I can't tell you all enough to try to get extra insurance, and I know it's tough, but it's towing. We've fought for towing reform in a lot of states on non-consensual tows, and that's when you have an accident or something happens, highway patrol calls. When this happens in most states, it's free. It's free reign for towers to go after whatever they want to go after. We had a tow bill in Pennsylvania last year. It was a $60,000 tow bill for just picking a truck up that had hit the Jersey barrier wall. That's all they did, knocked the front left tire.
Did you say 60?
Yeah, just come in, hook up, and pull it out because the front left wheel was broke off the truck. No rollover, no cars, no nothing. $9,800 of the $60,000 was a heat and humidity charge. because it was 98 degrees that day. And there's nothing you can do about these things.
It's humidity charge.
And what we're starting to see now is the towers were pushing back on how truckers are paying. Now they're lining up and pointing to insurance companies should be paying all these costs. Well, when there's no sort of regulation over these people, it could be a $10,000 tow can be $100,000. So how do you insure and protect yourself for these things? But these are all things that are hitting insurance companies. I'm not making excuses for it, but these are the reasons your rates are going up, unfortunately.
Right. Fantastic. Thank you for that insight. So rapid fire question, then we're going to bring Ken and Pavan back up in here for the general Q&A. And I did save rate transparency until they came back up, because I know that's something that's on people's minds as well, and we want to make sure we always talk about the issues. All right, so real quick, rapid fire. Rates. Obviously, rates have been depressed. They've been about even over time in the contract marketplace. So Dean talked a little bit about that in the beginning. Spot market's been at anywhere from 0 to 30% below the actual what's needed in the marketplace for profitability. Now, there's wild variations of people's operating cost, all right? I met an owner-operator one time that, this is last year, that had an 88-cent operating cost. He can make money on any load, all right? Not every owner-operator has that, all right? So real quick, rapid fire. On rates, my question to you is, and this is for anyone in the audience, all right, what's your best advice for negotiating rates? So I'm sure, Jason, you work with mostly shippers. It's probably some brokers, and so just kind of, what's your best advice for negotiation when it comes to the rates in today's market?
Well, you've got to know what your cost is, and then, negotiation is always how much information do you know?
Right. Oh, yeah.
The lanes and all the things that, so try to learn as much about what lane that you're wanting to quote, what you can find out, what your costs are. Realize that your job is to try to get as much for your company as you can.
Sure.
Their job is to try to get as much for their company as they can. And so to know the difference, and the big key to that for us is relationships.
Right,
so,
okay.
How do you sell your company? Do you know, do they know, and bring in all these things that we talked about, insurance claims and fraud and what you're doing, and in that negotiation you've got to be able to sell your business is why you're the best.
So you're saying data-driven relationships.
Yes.
That's great advice. Jamie, what's yours? Rapid fire, man.
Rapid? Okay.
Yeah.
Same as him.
All right.
No, 100% relationship. Make sure, you know each other. That goes a long way. Most of the time, when we're getting brokered freight and it's the first time, you don't get the best rate. But the third or fourth time you worked with them, now they hey, I know this guy's going to deliver, and he's legit. So they tend to come up on rate a little more.
Fantastic.
So that's relationships. Everyone keeps yelling that at everybody in this. No matter what you're in, insurance,
not good for relationships.
it doesn't matter. It's just relationship.
Okay.
You just got to constantly be out there working with the same people over and over again and being, personal. That's the hard part, being a driver.
You're speaking my tune. All right, Justin.
Yeah, so echoing what they said, knowing your operating costs, know what will keep you in the black, what will bring profit to what you need.
All right.
Also relationships, to Jamie's point, you have to make sure that you are a good carrier.
Right.
Make sure you're on time, make sure you're early. If you're on time, early, and dependable, you're going to be able to negotiate a better rate.
All right.
Period.
All right. Consistency.
Yeah, consistency. And so just stick with the same people. If you're going to be on the load board, make sure you're paying attention to the market.
Yeah.
Make sure you know
Pay attention to the market. Absolutely.
Right?
Sure.
So,
it's market driven.
I can go on. That's right.
So Tyler and I are going to be on stage later talking about this. Ty,
you know my answer.
I do.
Know your market and build relationships, period. One important aspect about that, we keep saying know your market, know your data, know your this. A lot of the information that Dean shared up here is public knowledge. I tell the team all the time, we don't need the Farmer's Almanac anymore to predict freight cycles and market tendencies, okay? We have better tools than that now. You have better tools than that now. Use them, know your market, build relationships.
Fantastic. Louis, what's your best sage advice, man? What you got?
I mean, first and foremost, before you can do any kind of negotiation, you got to know what it costs to operate your equipment. It's that simple. So know your cost of operation. I go with what these people
there you go.
say.
That's huge.
You know your cost, know your relationships, know your lanes, treat people right, do what you're supposed to do, be where you're supposed to be. And he's right. There's lots of things out there. Anybody out there who's an OIDA member or even just look around our foundation, they drill it down to small, this stuff what we saw from that, right down to small business trucking. They put stuff out every month. Read that stuff and research it. It'll tell you your lanes, what's good and what's not. And be able to pivot. You know, that's another thing.
Man,
you've got to be flexible. You're a truck driver. You're not a railroad track. So I see so many truckers in my life fail because they think that truck's on tracks and they're zip code to zip code. You got to be able to be flexible.
Right, fantastic. So I'm going to move this chair down here for Ken. Ken and Pop, you guys come on back up. So one of the best pieces of advice I got in growing the business that I've been in the last 12 years is I got from all these money people. Money people pay attention to things. And I said, what's the best advice you give people that are growing their business? And they say, the best thing you can do is pivot off a bad idea quickly. All right, more money and more time will not solve your problem. It'll just mean you're further into the problem. All right, so look at when you see bad situations or you've got a bad relationship with a client and it's just never going well, and you're grit and gumption, I'm never giving up, pivot off a bad idea quickly and find your success somewhere else. All right, that's the number one advice I got from like 40 different private equity companies that were loaning money to people, and they're like, they all of them said the same thing. You got to pivot quickly. All right, because you're smart, you know how to make changes, and it's a big industry. Remember, I said $1 trillion. All right, Ken, Pavin, thank you so much for coming back up. Toby's got the mic. There he is. We got a mic. He's coming around in a second. All right, so this is the Q&A. I've got some questions here. I'd love for you guys to. You got a very sage panel up here. Okay, there's a lot of wisdom up here on the stage. So, who would like to ask the first question? Come on. Oh, got a hand up. All right. What's your name, sir? Tony. Tony. We got a mic. Well, let's see. Toby, here's come. Hold on. Here he comes. Here he comes. Here comes. You should go on top of tables. Thanks, Tony. What's your question?
I guess probably more towards the larger, like Mercer or something there. When we go to the fraud side of it, what are you guys doing to mitigate? Our big thing we've hit is fuel card fraud.
Fuel card fraud?
I mean, it's just been horrible this year. We've been hit 4 times. We got hit $12,000 last month.
Wow.
And recovering the cost. I mean, we have PIN codes, driver IDs, everything in there, and we're still getting hit. And we're seeing it out of, our stuff's getting charged in Texas. We don't go to Texas.
Okay.
But that's where we're seeing the things come through, and recovering the money is very difficult. But I don't know what kind of protections you guys are maybe using to mitigate some of that.
Yeah, we're using
Great
external
question, Tony. Thank you.
Sorry, yeah.
No, go ahead.
We're using external measures and internal measures to mitigate that. We do see it. I'll tell you this, the fuel cards, whichever ones you use, the algorithms that detect fraud are getting better. So they're detecting not only the suspicious activity, but also places and things. We shut down all of our fleet's fuel cards as soon as anything is detected, period, and until we can verify the charge, and then we'll stand them all back up. So that's kind of an internal process. We use PIN codes. We use driver IDs. We do all of that verifications. Same with cargo fraud, or I don't know if there's any brokers in the room or not, but identifying carriers and things. We've gone to a strict no policy on anything that is not sent to a verified email through the FMCSA or a verified phone number through the FMCSA. So really just trying to stay strict on all of those things. So yeah, you're doing the right thing. No special sauce. It's hard to get around.
All right. Jess, did you want to add anything to that as a single operation?
Yeah, definitely. So choose a fuel card that has proactive and reactive monitoring. So
proactive and reactive monitoring.
Yeah, proactive meaning make sure that, you have your PIN, you have your unit, but maybe go with a provider that has a unique PIN that expires. And then reactively, a fuel card that monitors algorithms, like you had mentioned, where it's going to detect and alert shut-off cards for if you're in California, you're fueling California, then there's a fueling 5 minutes later in Texas. Or there's a continuous $300 gallon within 10 minutes. Like there's algorithms put in place. So definitely choose the right fuel card provider to protect you. And then also, I'm smaller than a larger fleet, so obviously monitoring that fuel and contacting them immediately if you see something suspicious, and fight it. It's not you. You don't have to eat that cost. Whoever you're going
Right.
through, that's their job to protect your business and your money. And if you put everything in place, then it's their responsibility to reimburse you.
Yeah.
And I want to add to that. Thank you for adding that. We recently changed to a 15-minute expiring pin at the pump only.
Yeah.
So that's one way to do it. Those are good. Those proactive and reactive fuel cards.
I mean, it's a pain in the butt, but I have multi-factor authentication just about any bill that I pay. The dang, I got to get a code. But it protects your money. Anybody else want to make a comment on it? Had fuel card or fuel theft?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Jamie's got
Common.
something. Say what?
It's been common for us too.
Yeah.
Thankfully, always get our money back. But yeah, that's why we are looking at other situations. You know,
Right.
they still seem to get the guys' pins and they still get their IDs and you know what I mean. They still seem to get the money, no matter what we do. So now we're, like I said, we're going to try relay payments where there is no card, there's nothing to steal. It's just that code every time. So that's about all we've been able to do. But yeah, it's kind of rampant.
Fantastic. Now the question? Who's got a question? Yes, sir. Let's get the mic over to him. Yeah, I want to make sure people hear you. Or you could have my mic if you want.
We're relatively new, but we have 7 trucks. We've kind of
How many
jumped in.
trucks?
7.
7, okay.
So we've kind of jumped in, and you're talking a lot about fuel fraud, but is it drivers? Are we kind of not saying it without saying it, or is it like
The drivers
actually,
are stealing, or the card is being hacked?
or is the card being hacked? Nobody's really touched on that. I'm sorry.
It's the skim.
So, yeah.
So Tyler?
Yeah. Oh,
Cards being hacked.
Cards being skimmed. Yeah. It's not your driver stealing it. It's the people hacking into your credit card. Yes, Jess. Did you have a?
no, I was going to say the same thing. It's the cards being hacked, but you can monitor your drivers, making sure they understand, protect your PIN.
Right.
If all else fails, go inside and pay at the fuel desk.
Yeah. It's easy to mess with a credit card authorization on a fuel pump, and so you'll see them in there, and then or they're close and they're getting the data off it as it's transmitting. So there's some good things online. Just look online. The way you can mitigate that. And then, of course, they've talked about other payments. Thank you for adding that. Another question? Come on, this guy. Fantastic. Ladies first. I'm so sorry. I like your haircut, but ladies first. And what's your name, ma'am?
Hi, my name is Daria, and I actually submitted my question online. It was addressed to Mr. Louis, Vice President of OOIDA. And I have a question about the towing. I know you guys been working towing,
Yes.
Post-accident towing, I mean. And I know you guys been working over the project to make this government regulated their rates. But for now, we do not have that. And I have a question: which instruments we can use to fight these huge bills for now? Like what you would recommend? Is there any specific way or tips for that? So it's about this towing.
Okay. Did you get that?
Yeah, I mean, really, unfortunately, if you're in a state that doesn't have any oversight on towers, you're pretty much at the behest of the tower, and you might be able to take it to court and hire an attorney. Fortunately, we do have some states, Arkansas, Tennessee, we just got it passed in Maryland. That's what makes this tough. We have to do this on a state by state level. You can't do it in one fell swoop federally. It would be nice if we could, but there's just no oversight. There's all towing state by state. So the biggest thing you can do to protect yourself, and as I said earlier, it's tough to know how to insure yourself, but is if you can get some extra insurance to kind of cover yourself. If you do get one of these big tow bills, if you're a member, call in. We'll try to work with you in the tower. Sometimes you can get them to bring them down. They'll work with you, negotiate it down. Unfortunately, what we see with that is a lot of times, if you can say, if it's a $60,000 tow bill and you say, I'll give you $30,000 or something like that, which that's hard for a small business person to come up with. Sure. They'll take it. But, again, you have to have that or another way to get it, so it makes it tough.
Thank you. Jason, did you have something? And
yeah,
then Ken, I would love you to weigh in on the sort of towing reform, if there's anything that FMCSA is looking at.
I think this is one of the things that affects all of us. And one of the things you can do is when you are, and I'm going to call it a victim of these predatory towing companies, is just don't let it get with OIDA, get with trucking associations. This is one of the things where insurance companies and trucking companies can work together.
Right.
Because they hate it too. And the thing about insurance companies, their lobby is a little more stronger. They have a few more maybe things in legislation. So the only way to cure this is going to be through regulation of these towing companies. And so go to your state's attorney general with that bill, explain to them, write it out why this was an egregious tow bill, and the more noise you make, the quicker we're going to be able to.
Well, that's a good segue right into Mr. Riddle here. So when he talked about, so you guys have looked at the FMCSA, have looked at predatory towing, right? That's something you've kind of looked at. Am I right on that?
Yeah, I do know we had a listening session on it, Brent. It's not my area of expertise, but I can certainly take questions back.
Yeah. So what then? If you Louis got something. Okay, back to Louis.
Right there's a good point. You did have a listening session. This is why, I say this a lot to members and everybody hears it. It's why it's so important that you get involved and you reach out to your lawmakers. That listening session had like 50-some witnesses.
Wow.
There was OIDA, there was ATA, maybe truckload carriers, and like 2 truckers, and everybody else was towers.
No way.
So, it's very important you get involved. You let your state lawmakers pay attention. If you're no OIDA member, we'll send out a call to action when we had a hearing 2 weeks ago in Missouri. Unfortunately, because we're trying to get this passed in Missouri, we have been for 5 years. Should this year, if we get it to the governor, because it's always been the governor vetoes it, because he's got a buddy that's a tower. But we got a new governor. He's not buddies with towers, so we should be good. But with that being said, we had a hearing a couple weeks ago. We sent out CTA to the entire state of Missouri, and there wasn't any truckers showed up. We were there. Missouri Trucking Association was there. Insurance company was there, but again, no truckers. So it's very important when you see these things in your state that you can a lot of times just file comments electronically, even you don't even have to go to the hearing. And if you have questions, reach out to OIDA. We'll help you if something like this comes up. But it's very important to be active.
Lou, you just brought up something important. Ken, I want to ask you, how important is it for people to attend the listening sessions?
Very important, because we listen. That's what a listening session is for. We get lots of great feedback when we hold listening sessions, and we take it to heart, and it goes into whatever rulemaking effort that we may undertake. So it's critical.
Yeah, I can't encourage you enough. Just, hey, they're willing to listen, and trucking likes to talk. So you guys make sure you're responding. Sir, yes, sir. Man with my favorite haircut.
So, Brent, hang on a second. We got to follow up on the tow questions.
Oh, sorry. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I don't want to cut him off. Paul Franklin, Franklin Family Express. So my question has to do with the towing, but I'm noticing more and more that tow companies are actually trying to force you to use 2 trucks, especially if you got a trailer because of length laws.
Okay.
Is this really a common deal, or are they just trying to gouge for 2 trucks? Is there any kind of leniency on this as far as states, or are states starting to really interact with the splitting of the tractor trailers?
Yeah, that's a great question. So needing two tow trucks instead of 1.
I think when it comes to this non-consensual towing company, the bad towers, and there's a lot of good towing companies out there, don't get me wrong, but the bad towers are looking for any extra way they can justify to have whatever pieces of equipment show up, because that's what happens is, and to be fair, you got law enforcement calling, the road's closed, they want to get the road closed. Law enforcement probably doesn't always have the best idea what kind of equipment they need. So to be fair, sometimes these towers are throwing a whole bunch of equipment at something they don't need to. And what we argue is, okay, if you don't need it, then take it back. The trucker shouldn't have to pay for it. Use what you go. But to be perfectly honest with you, I think that's just a justification to get you to pay for that extra truck.
Right. Okay. Is it a requirement is what you're asking?
I mean,
not pulling a tractor trailer together because of the length laws. I know there are length laws, don't get me wrong. But do tow truck
Yeah, good question. I don't know.
have the exemption on that, or are they just using it as a scapegoat?
towing companies are governed by state to state. I can't personally answer you whether any state has a law where it says, I've seen trucks and trailers towed all over the United States, all as one unit. I'm guessing that they're exempt because usually law enforcement wants this stuff off the highway as fast as they can get it off the highway to get the roads back open. So I would guess that there's an exemption there, but I'm not going to say that's for a fact.
Right. Jason, you had something?
Well, it's just, yeah, the towing industry pretty much is unregulated across, so whatever they can bring out and whatever they can use, because you have there's no, you're just at their mercy.
Right.
You can't stop, say, only bring one truck, bring two.
Right.
It's like that the law enforcement wants to bring that road back open, and no matter what tends to happen. But the towing companies also have in their training people that come to train them how to create the bills. Right. And what works with insurance companies and what doesn't. A friend of ours is in that industry, and they talk about how, so you throw a big bill out, and then the insurance company hires a service that says, hey, can you get this bill down for me? Can you go through and look? And they already know that, so they've inflated that bill past what the service is going to get. It service said, hey, I knocked this down 15%, everybody's happy. Yeah. And they know that already.
Okay.
So, you know, and they're not all bad actors. Right. But there's a lot that.
Yeah. Wow. That's sage. That's good stuff. All right, sir. Now up to you. Did you remember your question? Are we good?
I'm good.
All right. Fantastic.
I got kind of a two-part question.
You have what?
A two-part question.
Two-part question. Okay.
This is for
the second part's going to cost you money.
All right.
Okay.
I'm good.
Right. Yeah.
This is for Jamie and Jamie and Jessica. My wife and I, we're a one-truck operation out of North Carolina, and we're leased onto a company. We haven't gotten our DOT or EMC number just yet.
Okay.
When do you know the right time is to scale up, possibly?
Oh,
and how long to keep? Like, I've got a 22 Peterbilt. I've got about a year and a half to pay on it. I got a little bit left in my warranty, so I'm okay. But I'm thinking about buying a big truck, but I don't know that that's a smart idea right now. So the first question is, when should we plan on scaling up? When is a good idea to know how much money you need in the bank, that sort of thing? And the second question is, what can the OOIDA or the FMCSA do about what I call them predatory parking? Because
predatory parking.
It seems like we're whining, I guess, about it, because I don't mind private companies making money. But when the TA or places like that go from $14 to $22 to park in the last 5 years, that's a tax on the driver. And it's not about safety anymore, because at this point, they're just trying to get me because they know I need to stop. And I think I know it's not regulated as much, because the TA says that they can have up to 50% of their lot as reserved parking. Some of these places have way more than that, and you can't get in there to get a space. If you don't get in there by 3 o'clock, which I'm never done driving at 3 in the afternoon, I'm not getting a space unless I'm out in the middle of nowhere. You know.
So it hurts your hours of service. It hurts all across the board.
I think it hurts a lot of people's hours of service because they stop early trying to avoid anything.
All right. So two-part question. So that was for Jamie and Jessica. So how do you know when it's time to go move your operation? What size truck do you have now?
Well, I got a Peterbilt. We
run a standard Class 8.
Yes.
So you want to buy another Class 8?
Thinking about it.
Okay, fantastic. So go from one trucks to two trucks. How do you know when it's time to do that? And then maybe what's the big mistake that somebody makes when they go from one to two? All right, and then if you guys don't mind, from Louie and Ken about the parking thing.
Do you have a good therapist? Talk with your therapist about if this is right for you. No, it's difficult because when you're a single truck operator, you can really hone the craft and you can really get bottom dollar. You know what I mean? You're really good at. The second person will not be anywhere near that, and you double your costs. So that was the thing that shocked me the most.
Time out. Say that again, please. And here's why I'm asking him to say that again, because I worked for Overdrive Magazine for 15 years. Single truck operation, super profitable. Add the second truck, you lose 30 grand a year. They go from profitability to the business is at risk. So that's important. Say that again, Jamie.
Yeah, when I added the second truck, I thought I was doubling my money.
Yeah.
But I actually lost money, just like he said. It wasn't until I got to the third and fourth truck that things started to improve. The other thing is when you only have two trucks, if one's down, 50% of the fleet is disabled. It's kind of a weird number to be at. So for me, I excel at fuel efficiency. I took the money that I earned over 3 years, saved it, squirreled it, and then bought the other truck, you know. And that really is what propelled it, you know, and then found a great guy to work with me on that second truck, and then we were able to get to third. So, and then really Hellbent Express didn't come into play until after the pandemic. You know, they were giving away trucks in 2020 right after it happened, you know. So I just foolishly said, well, God, if they're going to give them away, I might as well just buy a truck and trailer, and what's the worst that could happen? And then it took off. So then it grew from there, and that's where everything kind of, you know, and then learning all of the back office stuff was the hardest part.
Right,
Buying trucks is the easiest part. Even the financing can be difficult, but it's not the most difficult part. It's the back office. That's what gets you. You know, I owe everything to my wife because she came in and just took over everything and excelled in that. That's what a person needs more than anything to get multiple trucks. You need back office help that knows what they're doing.
There you go.
That's fantastic.
It's a very
That's fantastic.
common.
You got a head start, man, because I was doing it all on my own and driving. It was a disaster.
Yeah, it's a very, very common model. Jess, real quickly, what you got?
Yeah, I'd like to say the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, we, you know, have a fully paid off semi, so we do have the two. We have the one for backup when the other one's in the shop. The reason why we haven't expanded is a little bit different than Jamie's perspective. We want to make sure we have good drivers because then we're
Make sure you have the drivers.
Yeah, then we're
That's the hardest
responsible.
part today.
No, that's right. You have to make sure that you have a good driver that's going to take care of your equipment, that's not going to cost you operationally. You're going to pay that driver. You're going to have to make sure you're able to cover your, if you're going to cover the, you know, cargo insurance, you have to make sure you can cover that. That's a huge expense. So I don't have a good answer for when because we're not there yet. We're waiting for the economy to stabilize. That's first and foremost. But nest egging money, my husband's very good at making sure when we started, when he decided to go off on his own, he didn't do the 3 to 6 months worth of, you know, income savings. He saved for about 9 to 12 months worth of money to sustain our household whenever he jumped into his own MC because we had to make sure we had a sustainable income coming in while he was waiting to get paid. But yes, back office, I run it all for my husband. It's extremely important. He's running a truck. He's managing traffic. He's making sure he's on time. It's extremely important to have a support system. Your wife doing the back office is essential to your business succeeding. But yeah, I'm not there yet. We're not there yet. We're not ready until the economy stabilizes at the minimum.
All right, so my advice to you is this, and I've seen hundreds of thousands of owner-operators in 26 years. Two things. Base your operating cost on a very low point in the marketplace. So how can I make money if it does this? That's worst case scenario, right? It's the best thing you can do. Number two, Jess just talked about it, rainy day fund. The number one thing that puts a small operation into bankruptcy or out of business or whatever else, the bad result, major mechanical failure because your money maker doesn't work. All right, so that puts you out of business. So if you have a rainy day fund, whether it's an engine, whether it's a transmission, whether it's a wheel end, whether it's somebody hit something on the road, and you're able to get it fixed quickly and you have enough revenue to recover from that, that saves your business. So you need to make sure you plan for that on every single mile. That's the most important thing. I actually testified to the Senate Transportation Committee, and I said that to Deb Fisher, Senator Fisher, and I said, this is things that puts trucks out of business. And she goes, well, how can I help? And I said, you can make sure the roads and bridges are in good shape because it didn't beat a truck up. All right, so, all right, next question. Anybody got a question? And I'll
Second part.
Oh, I'm sorry. Second question. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Toby. Yes, sir. So to the...
on the parking,
he framed
and
his
YTA, and everybody's charging you to park and put in more pay parking. What are we going to do about it? Unfortunately, the answer is we can't do anything about it. FMCSA can't do anything about it. TA is a privately owned company. They can do whatever they want to with their parking lots. My heart goes out to you. I agree with you. Unfortunately, as we all know, truck parking and the shortage is at a crisis level in this country, has just been getting a bigger crisis year after year after year. We're down to one safe spot for every 11 trucks. And as we've heard it said, some people would never let a good crisis go to waste. We figured out a way to make money off of that, and that's what they're doing. Right, wrong, or indifferent. I know truck stops are going to tell you that they've had to change their business model, and they're probably correct because people don't use the restaurants, don't use their other services as much as they used to. That's why truck stops, and probably goes to ELDs and a lot, no flexibility in our service, a lot of things. That's why truck stops, we've lost restaurants, and we now have restaurants with clowns or little redheaded girls above the door instead of good sit-down family restaurants, which is unfortunate for our industry. So we hear you. I know that it's not under Ken's bailiwick at FMCSA, but FMCSA and DOT, state DOTs, they're finally talking about this parking thing. They're realizing it's an issue. I personally sat on a lot of state DOT boards talking about new, faster, inventive ways to come up with parking for you. There's a bill in Congress right now, the Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act. Call your lawmakers, tell them to pass it. It's been through 3 Congresses now. It's bipartisan. Everybody in D.C. says we need to do this, but nobody had the intestinal fortitude to go ahead and pass it because they get all gummed up in the money. Yesterday, I testified on this very thing and said, what you need to do is just reallocate some money. You're giving cops plenty of money to write truckers tickets for not parking when at the time they're supposed to park, or either parking in the wrong place or breaking hours of service. How about moving some of that money over and build some parking places? If the bill passes and that money is used, whether it's by a truck stop or a city or municipality or a state, it has to be free because it's your money in the first place that they're using.
Hoorah.
Some states they were looking at in the Midwest. They didn't have that study on the East Coast. I read a little bit about this, the same one you're talking about. They looked at like 4 Midwest states like Minnesota, North Dakota, Illinois, where it's not really terrible to park, but like in Connecticut or even in North Carolina where we're from, it's just ridiculous. The states are closing down rest areas, Tennessee, North Carolina, and yet they don't seem to care. Can't even park on the ramp in Tennessee anymore. They getting a fine for something like that. So anyway, that's all I had to say.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. Absolutely. And last question needs to be quick. So we got about 2 minutes, I think. And we have another question. Fantastic. Man in the hat. All right. What's your name, sir, and what's your question?
My name's John Cannon.
Hey, John.
Hey, I'm going on my 4th year at my trucking company. I've been able to progress at about a driver each year. Just trying to compete with other industries, other trucking companies.
Right.
Looking about like how to compensate my drivers, how to initiate them to take care of their trucks and stuff. So instead of paying hourly, I've tried to pay by a load base since I get paid by load.
A percentage of the
I pay
load.
them.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm on the right track. Just kind of my mindset is if they get paid by load, they're working, they're making money, I'm making money. And then
are these owner-operators that are signed on to you, or are they company drivers?
Well, I pay them 1099, but they
so
drive
they're contractors.
They are contractors. But
so
to kind of incentivize them, take care of their equipment too. I try to pay them like a maintenance day, $100 a day, something. I just want to know if I'm on the right track. So I'm young. I got five.
Let me ask Tyler to answer that. Tyler, they got 1,700 independent contractors, and so they've done it for quite a while. And number one, for everybody in the audience, thank you for saying the right word, which is competition. Every trucking company is in competition with the other trucking company. Most trucking companies don't look at it that way because it's such a big market, but you're competing against everybody. Ty, you can finish this out and then we'll close it out.
Yeah, the difference between company drivers and owner-operators in my mind is the market dictates rates. The market dictates where we're at. None of us can change that. At a company driver, when the market's down, in order to make money as a principal in the company, you must cut costs. In order to do that, you have to either not pay your labor as much or cut costs other ways in order to make money. The easiest is your labor because it's the most cost to you. It's actually the exact opposite in a 1099 and owner-operator model. Because you pay him or he pays you a percentage of what he makes to do that, the idea behind that is that you want to make him as successful as possible because the more success he has, the more success you have as a principal. So that's personally why I love the owner-operator model. Of course, I'm a little biased towards that. But yes, in my opinion, percentage-based pay is really good.
Yeah, I'm sure if you want to talk, John, if you want to talk to Tyler after this. All right, well, so we're at 10:30. I always want to make sure we try to end on time. First off, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you guys listening along. I hope this was a benefit for you. Was this a benefit for you? All right. So I want to thank Toby and the team, Toby and Adam and the team for having this and putting on a great show. On behalf of Truck Stop, on behalf of DAT, on behalf of the FMCSA and this great panel up here, thank you so much. Have a great Mid-America and keep on trucking.